Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 135. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I am Sean Whalen, Dr. Norge on the comics forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. Norge, I'll drink your blood yet. I'll see your friends in the oven at the House of Watish. So says the sensei of the Whatnot and the Duke of Segulin.
How's it going, eh? Okay.
Wonder Woman number
Wonder
25,
Woman, yes.
baby. This was Simone Squared this week, so we're going to, and obviously...
Yeah.
I'm going to chat about that in Speeding Bullets because got it.
And for those of you, we're just going to give you a warning right now. Let the Gail Simone Love Fest begin.
Oh, yeah.
We had Secret Six and Wonder Woman come out this week. If you didn't think we were going to talk about them, you really don't know who we are.
Definitely check in the show notes this week, though, because we cover a lot of recently, actually just released books within our Speeding Bullets segment. This was a big week, and there were some big books, such as Action Comics, that was released this week.
Yeah.
That I don't know how we can't talk about the recently released Action Comics issue, because it was huge. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. We're going to be talking Batman this episode. We're going to be talking about Batman 680, the most recent part of RIP, and Detective Comics number 851 and Batman number 684. They're actually solicited right now, and it's got a 50% off discount, regularly $2.99, only $1.49 for each issue. This is the Denny O'Neil fill-in that's going to talk about what Gotham City is like without Batman. So this is where we kind of get to see Denny O'Neil come back, classic creator come back. Denny O'Neil. I'm a huge Denny O'Neil fan. So to have Denny come back and do something on that, so I can't recommend this one enough. And it's a Commissioner Gordon story. You know, this is going to heavily focus on the Gotham PD, I'm sure, and nobody writes him like Denny does.
I know.
So I'm excited.
This is going to be a cool one. Yeah.
Whatever your shipping preferences, whatever your bag and boarding preferences, DCBService.com accommodates your collecting needs. Our new In-Stock Trades Book of the Month for October, which we're going to be airing in November, by our first contest winner, Simulated Stereo. He chose Doom Patrol Volume 2, Painting That Ate Paris. This is Volume 2 by Grant Morrison. And this covers issues 26 to 34 of Grant Morrison's groundbreaking run on Doom Patrol. And it's regularly $19.95, 47% off, only $10.57. So it's a nice discount. I don't own that volume. So this is going to be my first time reading this through. I read the first volume. It was a CGS Book of the Month quite a while ago. So I bought it and read it along with them. And it's one of those things I have always meant to grab it and never did. When he said, hey, I'd really like to do this one, I'm like, yeah, that's great because I haven't read it. I'm like, cool. This will be a fun one. So this is going to be my first exposure to it. I don't think, Jim, we've not really talked Doom Patrol unless they crossed over into some
we did
books.
The Brave and the Bold Doom Patrol. With the Flashes.
Right. So, we haven't really done...
We did that one. But we haven't done hard and heavy into Doom Patrol on themselves, with just by themselves. Like, there was a Titans one as well.
This is not the same Doom Patrol. Yeah. This is Morrison's Doom Patrol. I know from the first volume.
Okay, so it's going to be a little freaky?
Oh, yeah. InStockTrades.com is your source for your collected edition needs. Thank you for supporting us, DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. I also want to shout out InStock Trades, DCB Service. They're going to be at the Screaming Tiki Con, which is coming up this weekend. I'm going to be there on Friday. You're going to be there. Are you coming on Sunday?
Yeah, it looks like Sunday.
Okay. InStock Trades is going to be there. Adam West, Yvonne Craig, who doesn't do conventions anymore, is going to be there. Julie Newmar is going to be there from the 60s Batman show. The Batmobile is going to be there. This is in Niles, Ohio. The Batmobile's going to be there. The Batboat's going to be there. The Batcycle's going to be there. I got the special pass where you get a picture with Adam West because it's kind of like this is like my month, man, of classic people. I met Chris Claremont, which was on my list of people I've got to meet, and now Adam West. And we got a picture of the Batmobile together.
Yes, that was cool.
Yeah, which will be up on the website, actually, along with this episode. That will be up on the website, so people can kind of take a look at us, the two goofs in the Batmobile. Yeah. That was a highlight for me. Visit us at RagingBullets.com for show news updates, listener-generated content. There's this Life in the Gutter blog. Have you read this yet? From Super Mandy from the forums. It's a wonderful blog she's posting regularly. It's a great, great blog. If you haven't read it, Jim, You got to check this out because I'm reading them, obviously, as they're coming out. So we've got Bulleteer Rants, a new section devoted to listener articles. So I set that up. It's kind of for people who kind of send me casual articles that aren't doing like a regular weekly run or anything like that. They just want to blog up there about something. Go ahead and, submit some articles for Bulleteer Rants. Remember, anything you submit for the website or audio comments for the show, things like that, they go towards our contest. So please, feel free to participate. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plot line, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Hey, Sean and Jim. This is Eric Martin, The Question on the Forums, co-host of the DC Noise podcast. I just wanted to say it was a pleasure to meet both of you guys at the Mid-Ohio Con this weekend. Had a good time at the con. One of the highlights, actually, was getting to talk to Mike Grell for a good 10 minutes. Had a look at his portfolio, and I couldn't afford a sketch, but I got a nice print from him signed, and we talked about his upcoming Warlord series, and he showed me the cover to the first issue that he had there in his portfolio. So it was a good time. He was a really nice guy, really cool, and really funny guy, too. So, and the whole con was really good. I spent a little too much money, but, hey, that's what cons are for. So, yeah, I just wanted to call and touch base with you guys and say it was nice to meet you, and bye.
I'm excited as can be for Mike Grell's Warlord.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the classic Warlord series, so it's great to see that back. Now, I think you're...
I didn't pick it up before. I'm probably not going to initially buy it. I may borrow it from you because I do like his work, so... Yeah, I've read a couple of the stuff he's done. So
you're not going to try out the first issue?
I don't know. I keep saying no, but I know.
I'm probably going to do it on the show.
Yeah, I know, and I'll probably... And here's the thing. This is me trying to be tough and say I'm not going to read everything they do, but in the end, when it comes time for ordering, I'll probably say click.
Well, let me ask you a question, like swords and sorcery and that type of thing. Is that a draw for you in a comic, or is that something... Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering if that was the reason why you're avoiding it. But...
No, I'm avoiding it just to try to have some resistance, and it usually doesn't work. Yeah, I really dig the whole fantasy and the whole fantasy sci-fi mix type thing, which is Warlord has a lot of that in there. So, and I'm like, oh man.
And this is a complete relaunch, I guess.
Right.
Well, or at least it's got to be ignoring the one that just came out, and it's kind of doing its own thing. So I don't know how this if it takes off of the old series or if it's going to be a brand new start or how it's going to work. But he's responsible for the classic series, which I'm glad to see them bringing back these properties. So. Yeah, I'm definitely going to want to chat about this on the show, at least even if it's Speeding Bullets-wise. So if you don't get it, I'll just chat about it in Speeding Bullets, and you can decide if you want to grab it from that. So we'll see. But you know that the way that DCBService.com, they're going to have that like 50% off thing, so you're not going to pick it up?
Yeah, come on. Let's be honest. Right? You know me well enough to know I'll pick it off now. So
let me ask you a question. Does that affect you, though? Like if you see like that they're offering the first issue of something 50% off, do you pick it up for that reason?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you know they're going to do that.
Yeah. And especially if it's a 75% off, I may order two. Like, hey, I can get two for under the price of one. All right.
All right, I'm going to die if you pick two of these up. I want to give a shout out to the DC Noise podcast. The Question's been a wonderful supporter of our show, and then he got involved in the DC Noise podcast after Peter Rios left it. So now he's doing that podcast, and it's great to see him over there and doing that. Also doing the Comics Playground podcast. So that's it's about all ages material, which I've been listening to Comics Playground since it's been out. Because as a school teacher, that kind of totally fits my cup of tea. He has a third podcast, which I'm forgetting the name of it right now because I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. I noticed in his SIG file when he was saying that he was going to be at Mid-Ohio that there was a third one, and it's kind of he talks about all media. It's kind of a bunch of his friends and him getting together talking about media. I will put the link to that one as well in the show notes, so you can take a look at the 3 podcasts from him. But Comics Playground I've been adoring so far, and DC Noise, obviously, I'm a DC fan, so tend to gravitate towards that right away, but just want to give him a shout-out. We met him, Nuggy99 from the forums, and the Alternate Reality guys. And we had a wonderful dinner with Alternate Reality guys and Nuggy99 that was at Gordon Biersch, which was a wonderful, great comic debate that was going on there. I had a wonderful time. So.
Oh, yeah. And everybody else got one worded.
And I got, like for everyone, I got like 10.
Yeah. We were all done eating, and Sean's just starting to eat his meal because he had the gift of gab that night.
Well, they started talking. So People should, if you want to eat, don't start talking to me. Actually, everybody else did get to eat, though, in fairness. So
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun, honestly. They're wonderful guys, and I can't rave about them enough either. Their podcast will be in our show notes as well, so definitely check out the Alternate Reality guys as well. That's one of the fun things about cons for me now, though. Every con we go to, there are friends that we have, from podcasters to, Nuggy99, who's a good friend from the forum, to now Dial C for Comics was over there, and he's considering starting up a podcast of his own as well. So it was great to just meet listeners and friends and things like that. It's a lot of fun. Cons are that kind of experience for me now. So definitely, if you're going to be at Screaming Tiki, that's what I look forward to. So, and my wife's definitely going to be at Screaming Tiki.
Oh, cool.
She's going with me. We were just talking about it downstairs. She's going with me on Friday for sure. So, day before Sweetest Day.
You're such a romantic, taking her to a con.
Well, it's the day before Sweetest Day, not the day of. I'll take her out on Sweetest Day night. I took her out to a very nice night last night, I'll have you know. We went out to dinner and a movie. She chose everything.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Jim, let's go ahead and get into our Speeding Bullets segment. Dude, there's actually too many books for me to want to talk about this one. I had to actually cut down some of the books that I want to talk about. Because I'm like, we'll have like a 4-hour podcast just on Speeding Bullets, and we've got, some main features to discuss as well. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about what a cool week this was, and I got double dose of Gail Simone.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman number 25, Secret Six number 2. Let's start out with my new favorite Kick Butt book, because this is my new favorite book right now, Secret Six number 2. The confrontation between Batman and Catman. This is one of those situations that reminds me of what makes a great writer in comics. Take the history of Catman, viewed as a joke, bring it into conversation with Bruce and Thomas, and add something more to that history. Bruce always knew that he was something more than he pretended to be. And this dialogue, the banter, adds something more to each of them. It shows that you can take what is considered an out-of-date but cool concept, make it current, spice it up, without ignoring what made it so interesting to begin with. This is exactly how you make classic fans who've been reading comics for years feel a part of the story, and newer fans who want something more contemporary to be into Catman as a character. Very cool. The artwork is fantastic as usual. And for a while, no one has a thing to say. Mainly silent page there. Mainly silent page. But headbutts to martial arts. We see Batman get schooled, but the fight is far from over. Blake considers it an advantage that he doesn't care if Batman lives or dies. But I even question this with Blake's inner turmoil. And that's what I like about this book. Even though these characters seem to be something on the surface, there's some depth to them. There's something more going on with them. And I was wondering, what's Blake really thinking here? And that's what I really liked about this one. Blake and Batman's debate over the info the Tarantula is carrying and how much danger Blake is really in reminds us that with everything that has happened so far, the best is yet to come. Bruce respects Blake, and that attempt to reach him really adds something to both characters. He's sizing up Thomas in this exchange, which adds something to the fight for me. You walk or you're dead. Do you follow that? I'm trying to save your foolish, wasted life. I love those moments where he's pleading with him.
And with Thomas, I kind of took it not just he doesn't care if Batman lives or dies. He doesn't care if he lives or dies. And that, for me, I was like, that is a huge thing. Someone who has no fear of death, who has no regards whatsoever whether they live or die, does make a very dangerous enemy. That's one of the things that makes Joker so dangerous, is because there is no regard for life. Period. And that's
but is that true with Thomas, though? With the first issue and the second issue, with what we're seeing here with him now, is that true? I don't think so. I think there's more to this guy.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
He's saying that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's saying that to Batman. I'm agreeing with you. There is that inner conflict within him, and that's...
I don't think that's his reality, though.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing I liked, because Batman is trying to save him, and Batman's trying to save him. I took it more on the word of Huntress. It's one of those things where he's trusting one of the people that he knows and trusts. Huntress is telling him, hey, this guy's okay. There is redemption possibilities in him. I
100% agree with that, but if you if you reread that exchange between the two of them, Batman is bringing in so much of their history into this conversation, and you can see that there's a respect for Thomas Blake that he has, not just because of Huntress, because of his own interactions with him, and understanding that this man is something more than he's presented himself to be. And in many ways, seeing bits of himself in Blake. I'm not saying that they're identical, but he's seeing things that he connects with that I think do fit. And even when you see them at the end, where the two of them are having that discussion together, where everything's kind of calmed down, and you see him, Blake trying to rationalize and reach Blake kind of holding back and saying, I don't know, I think I'm, scarred, I don't know if there's something. It's those moments between the two that you see a mutual respect between the two guys, even though that's why I said, I think that there's a lot more to their relationship in both of these characters, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah. Though I do, I laughed with him with the burrito, the whole burrito bit.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just something I was like, when, started off talking about just the different, cilantro, this or that. I'm like, what? I had a burrito. Bam! I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'm digging the tracker in Catman. I'm digging that we're seeing this guy who, basically was reborn, if you will, in the African plains among the pride of lions. That he's not a meta, I don't think, but he's got that level of meta powers. He's learned to access his own.
He trains himself in the way that Batman trained himself.
Yeah, so I was like,
and there's distinct differences in how they train themselves. So you're seeing differences between him and Batman and what he notices.
Now, what do you think? Who won the fight, in your opinion?
I think it was a standoff.
You think it was a complete standoff?
I feel it was a standoff.
Yeah, because I liked how...
I took the whole thing as the two of them feeling each other out.
Well, see, I like how Thomas said, I let you in. It's like, believe what you want to believe. And it was just that,
That's
face-off. So
I think both of them were feeling each other out. Yeah. Especially with how it ended, because it didn't really end, per se, other than the two of them just kind of agreed to stop.
Yeah.
So, I don't consider that... A standoff like that is not a victory. So, I don't know. I'd definitely love to see round 2.
Yeah, yeah, I want to see that.
Right. So it was one of those where I don't really think it's a classic confrontation. I really liked it. Bane is fantastic. And my new favorite line, he vomits. It's just great. The exchange with Deadshot over what Scandal needs was hysterical and creepy. The whole needing a firm but loving hand of a father is messed up, and I love that Deadshot keeps referring to it.
Dude, you know what? I was so looking forward to seeing what she was going to do with Bane, and it's not disappointing. I am just like, yes, we're seeing. He's like, even when Deadshot say, "Hey, kick in the venom," I don't do that anymore. And you see just that the principles and the beliefs and the the moral structure, if you will, of Bane.
Well, this is the man who took down Batman by wearing him down. Finally, a Bane that matches his legacy. Interested on where his stance on morality is going to take him, because I am curious about that. He's obviously had to go through a great deal to purge himself of his addiction to Venom. But his righteous path still allows him to team up with the Six and bludgeon Mammoth where the sun don't shine. Or in his ornament things, if you let Mammoth tell you what they were. And it's one of those things where he's another one...
What's going to happen with Bane? What is
more
Bane
layers to
do?
him.
Yeah.
You know what? I want to know more about, how did he find the religion that he's at? How does that kind of, so I'm intrigued by this character a great deal now. And it's great to see him as more than kind of this mindless brute, because his origins show that he is more than that. So it's great to see him back in that type of capacity. And I'm really anxious to follow his story. And I also want to know which Alamo rental I can rent me a Black Manta sub. Because the art and the colors when that baby came out of the water...
Yeah,
looked so darn cool. There was like a purplish tone in the background, but the sub looked cool. I'm like, oh, I want me one of those. Funny moments with Ragdoll and Scandal over the wait pre- and post-birthday cake, causing the 73-pound bundle of creepy goodness to be tossed in a stealthy way. And I love that this team has a ton of humor, but the gravity of the situation's never lost, and that's important to me. Keep the humor in there, keep me entertained, but at the same time, I never forget that this is really intense. And that's where the humor works, because people do that in intense situations, wisecracks and things like that, to keep their mind on the game.
And I like the breakdown of the prison itself, because there's no, barbed wire, none of that stuff, because it's metas inside.
Yeah.
If they get out, barbed wire fence is not going to stop them. So why would you have it on the outside of your prison? It would just be a waste of time. I'd like that little distinction in with this metahuman prison. That's cool.
Have to talk about Junior. Yeah. He remains a powerful and creepy villain here. Is Dude holding himself by a stripper's pole and a crutch? Is that what you read that as? I was like, what's going on here? Because he's standing in these curtains things. There's this big, long pole. What else is that pole there for?
I took it that was like a staff. He was,
Dude, if you take a look at that, man, there's a big, giant pole hanging in the middle of two curtains.
It could be a stripper pole.
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my mind's in the wrong place. I don't know. But message to others there, where he's sitting there saying, stake them out, cut them open, make them drink battery acid, fill their eyes with razors, break them and molest them and stand them and burn them, and fill them with hope, and then take that hope away cruelly. Do this for me. Money you will be paid for each drop of agony they suffer.
Okay.
I mean, dude says that, it's kind of like,
Yeah, I don't know if I want to work for him.
Bruce was right.
Yeah.
As far as the winning of the debate, the second this man started talking, Bruce was right. I don't want this guy following me.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want him in Gotham either, so that was a great, just, motivation of...
Fill it with hope and then take it away.
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of makes Ragdoll look, sane and normal. This dude is a level of depravity that, I'm really looking forward to.
How do you fill someone with hope after you fill their eyes with razors?
Yeah.
I would like to see that.
We probably will.
I have no doubt. He's one twisted dude. I want to know his origin. I really want to know, how does a guy get to this point? Because, he looks like a creepy-looking Gollum kind of dude from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, he's all covered
his
over.
His one leg is, severely messed up. He's got the other one, but yet, at the same time, he's so incredibly intimidating looking for how frail he is. It's so bizarre. So, I don't know. I don't know what else to say, except that it's only 2 issues in, and if you aren't reading this, you are missing out on something special. And it really is. It's just a blast. I'm going to stop there because I have the sudden urge to eat a burrito. And that's kind of where I'm at. It really was it was a fun, once again, a fun read. This is my new favorite book because I'm just having a blast with it.
Oh, definitely.
Wonder Woman number 25, because my Simone love doesn't stop with Secret Six. We got the second part of the Wonder Woman versus the Queen of Fables story. Bernard Chang does a great job in the art, and I love how the Queen of Fables uses film to convey her stories in this digital age. This would give her access to so many different avenues, and I really liked that about this. She mistakes Diana for Snow White, and that character's escape has driven her to vengeance against Diana. The inner dialogue in all this, from flattery at being considered an angel to regret at the Queen not being able to be killed, shows multiple sides of Diana. Seeing her story through the eyes of the Queen, it's woof. So, do you think there is a true father to be named at a later date, or was that just a play off of Diana's story being like a true Hollywood, upped and that type of thing, or... Because there was a reference in there. I took that as being part of the Queen's story.
I took that as all part of the Queen's story. I don't think we have I think
she added all kinds of stuff to this.
Yeah, she was having fun with the story, and I loved seeing just Diana's reaction to us going, I can't believe I can get a headache. This is what a migraine feels like. What is she doing? Did you just see that? Just, oh, God, I can't look. I can't watch,
Yeah. I love seeing Diana portrayed as the classic Wonder Baby.
Yeah.
Straight from classic comics. Also liked how Diana's dialogue clarifies where this film version is going horribly wrong, such as the view that being in favor of women's rights, or being, not women's rights so much as women's equality, just saying that doesn't mean a hatred for men. And that was, the story was implying that meant this intense hatred and burning. But that is kind of a message for society, not just about women, but racism and things like that. Why does being in favor of equality of race, being in favor of equality for women, why does that mean a hatred for the other end of things? It doesn't. It's equality. And equality means that you like both sides. It is an interesting, it's kind of like a duh point, but it is something that I think is so often forgotten, because I think women that do band together and, push for equality and talk about that, they're often branded as being men haters. And that's not fair. And that is an interesting point. And I really liked that message. And it's fitting that it would be in a Diana book, because she's so much about everybody. She's kind of an everybody person. And that is one of the things that I've enjoyed learning about her in this exploration of her.
But I laughed out loud when they had the one claim, they leave the seat up, and she's like, oh, that's it. What the hell are you talking about? I laughed out loud with. That was in one of those fall down laughing moments within the action, within the thing.
But the penalty's death.
Yeah, the penalty's death.
I'm leaving it down.
Here's my question. You have your wife, and there's other married people out there and all that. How big of a deal is it if you don't forget to lower the seat down?
I've got to say this in defense of men, okay? You should be more angry if the seat never goes up than that it doesn't go back down. Speaking about the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
That seat needs to go up. And I'll leave it at that. So really, it really should be under penalty of death if you're leaving it down all the time, not the reverse. Yeah, this book made me think.
Okay.
I love the Johnny Depp, like Steve Trevor and Diana, and her immediate concern that this film would be traumatic to her friends, because it's true, because it's implying there's a relationship there that isn't. Mm-hmm. You know, and Steve and Etta Candy are together now, and she's with Nemesis, and there's this whole different relationship. But that would be something that would be a big problem. And this happens so often in true Hollywood stories. That's what I loved about this. It read like that. A twisted variation of the contest was here. Her versus Centaurs. Amazon's ready to shoot her if she leaves. Her versus the Queen. Not only did she blind her in that very cool action sequence, but ripped her tongue out. Gotta admit, though, the Queen saves face. I'll drink your blood yet, fake princess. I'll see your friends in the oven at the House of Sweets. And I mean, what do you say to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you win. You lose, but you win. Because, I mean, I would be intimidated too, and I could see why Diana afterwards is like, oh man, she's going to be back.
Yeah. She's hurting right now, but you know it's not over. And who knows with this mystic being that can she die ever? It's, I don't know, she's like kept alive in our stories and our fairy tales, but this is just the twisted, nasty, true version, you know, where everything we're reading is, you know, kiddified, if you will. It's been, you know, lightened and, you know, made just, you know, Disney and Hollywood, and, you know, yeah, she's the evil, wicked queen, but she ain't nothing like this evil, wicked queen.
But what she could do is she could twist lives and ruin lives using the power of the media.
Yeah.
And that's where she becomes a very powerful adversary, in the sense that she could really do a whole smear campaign that could destroy not only Diana's life, but the lives of those around her by really messing them up, you know, in the eyes of everybody that they're close to. So it's, the movie's put to rest, and I really like the moments with Allison. We see a softer side of Diana here. This is what I like. You get to see different Dianas in this book. She can be this intense warrior, but then she can forgive those that are harsh to her and see into their pain to inspire them to something more. And that was really cool. She can get down to a personal level in a way that no other hero can, and I like that she can be this, you know, way out of reach icon, you know, like Superman and Batman, but then come down to anyone's level where you feel like you could hang with her. And I like that.
And I gotta just, you know, I just love the one line when she's sitting there saying, you know, she's thanking Diana. You could have destroyed us, you know, to the press. All it would have taken one word. All of our careers are done and dead. And she's like, we have a saying. My people have a saying. Don't kill if you can wound. Don't wound if you can subdue. Don't subdue if you can pacify. And don't raise your hand at all until you've it first extended. I was like, yes, that is just what we've been talking about, just the Amazon code, just this warrior code, but not just the barbaric warrior. There is so much more to Diana. And right there, one cool paragraph, sentencing, whatever you want to call it, it explained it. You know, I was just like, yes.
Jim, I want to talk about Final Crisis Revelations number 3. Wow. I was so ready for more Final Crisis because, you know, this time off, it seems like just a very lengthy time. And it has been, because, I mean, there's a skip month. But this is the perfect time for this issue because it takes place after the events that we saw at the end of that, with the anti-life equation and the multiple religions that do fold into the DC universe. I love the Cain concept, almost implying that Vandal was always Cain, but just forgot himself. Is that how you read that?
Yeah, that's how I was reading it, that he was, you know, because at first when we did Revelations, we weren't sure, and I think he's always been Cain. This is always who he's been. This has just been the awakening within him.
I like how the Spectre's the target, because he's the one, being God's vengeance, he would be the one that originally marked Cain.
Yeah, and
that is really, you know, taking a religious history and bringing that into it. I'm like, whoa, that totally makes sense. The implication that God's mercy and God's vengeance are not 100% accepting their roles. And I took it as Mercy hasn't either in this case, because she's faced with her killers, and they were begging forgiveness. They realized who she was. They realized that they killed her. And in this moment of, you know, threat of death, when, you know, they're facing their maker, they decided to repent. But she couldn't show mercy. She was expecting the Spectre to enact vengeance at that point. So she hasn't 100% faced her demons and her role. You know, we got the Crispus with his son and, you know, having to make those choices, and Renee having to go after her as well. That's becoming issues that he's having trouble with. And in her case also, having that problem as well, and somehow both being diminished because they haven't accepted their roles. And in many ways, I think they're put in the situations they are because they haven't accepted their roles.
Yeah, I think in a way it's kind of like a test, if you will, or, because Renee kept saying how with the prophecy from the book, how the book, the Book of Blood, Book of Stone, whatever the actual title of the book is, how all of this was prophesied.
The Crime Bible.
The Crime Bible, whatever it's gone. They've called it a couple different names,
right.
But it's, it's the same thing.
Right.
So I'm wondering how much of that was prophesized about, the specter, about vengeance, about the Spirit of God, the wrath of God, if you will. So this is one of those things where I'm just like, I want to see what happens next, because this isn't just a superhero. This is the connection, wrath of God and the mercy of God. What is going to happen there? If we lose the pure wrath of God, if we lose the mercy of God, what happens to the heroes? What happens to the people? How can you recover from that? Especially you think about it, if Cain gets the power of the wrath of God. There's just so much going on in my head with where this could go. When I read this, I was like, oh my God, oh cool. And just like, especially the ending of this issue. Oh, talk about a cool ending where you're just like, okay, I want the next one now. I got to know what happened.
I love this faith as a concept being approached here, though, because the power of religion is only as strong as the faith of the believer. And we saw this explored by Perez during his run on Wonder Woman. The gods wanting people to believe in them to increase their strength. Yeah. And their strength came from the faith of the believers. But it's interesting because you take a look at that. I think everybody at some point in time in their life makes a decision about who they are in regards to religion. And I think right now we've got characters who haven't made that firm decision yet through circumstances. They've gone through traumas, deep traumas. Renee's gone through deep traumas. We've got Crispus who's gone through deep traumas, and now, of course, we've got Mercy, God's Mercy, who's gone through some deep traumas. And none of them have been able to get past their traumas completely yet, and they're in that holding pattern. Even people who decide, like, religion's not for me, at some point in time they make that firm decision for their own reasons. Everybody, I think, develops an identity of who they are in regards to religion at some point. These are people who right now, because of circumstances, can't make that decision of who they are in regards to that. And it's because of their crisis of faith. So it's interesting to see how this is going to get resolved.
Faith is a very powerful weapon. It can strengthen you to beyond what you could do before. If you're faced with an adversity and you have like the faith that God will see me through this, you can step up and do amazing things. There's stories constantly of people who have just done this, miracles, and no one can explain how they did it, but they did it, and they said it was just pure faith. Now, is it faith? Was it a divine intervention? Was it just them overcoming, how you get that, you get the people who get caught up on so much adrenaline, they can lift the car up. It's who knows what is out there, and the fact that they're touching on this and going into this in the comics is a really cool thing.
And I've heard of examples for this from a variety of different religions. So it's interesting, and I do think it is kind of a decision as far as, and I think some of it is your own self-identity coming from that.
And I do like that they're not naming like a specific religion.
No, I like that too.
They're keeping this very general. They're not saying, Roman Catholic, Christian, Methodist, whatever. It's probably one of those. Just because of, they're using the Cain and Abel story. They're using, I think, I'm leaning more towards that, but
I think the overarching concept, though, can apply to any religion.
Yeah.
I really think it can. It's kind of the interesting... That's what I like about it, is kind of... that's why I'm kind of deliberately staying away from that, because I'm like, the faith theme kind of fits a whole bunch of stuff, and I like that. It's an interesting and intriguing story because of it.
Yeah.
It's definitely one I didn't expect it to go in the direction that I thought it is. That it is right now. As I'm reading it, I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. It's an interesting exploration. I'm glad because it doesn't feel like a rehash of the previous Spectre stories. And at this point in time, I do need something new, Spectre. So I'm glad that we're getting that, and I'm enjoying this. I love the double-page spread where we see Gordon as one of the Gotham victims, and then throughout the story we see appearances by Catwoman, Bane, Batwoman, etc.
Poison Ivy, Freeze. They got Freeze. I was like, ooh.
Well, which makes sense, though, because it's the anti-life equation. It got everybody. So it was nice to see, and we saw in the beginning of this story, obviously, that this is taking place in Gotham. So That was from the Street Signs, so it was great to see those characters. Interesting read. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about Action Comics number 870.
Yeah.
This was one even
man.
right now I don't know how I feel about it. It was, first of all, I'm going to start by saying right away, this is a very well written story. I've loved the Brainiac story all the way through. This issue was no exception. The artwork was absolutely top notch and fantastic. It was a creepy story. It was a wonderful story. This Brainiac and seeing Superman have to overcome him. The moments with Kara where he inspires her, and says it's okay to be afraid, and how that adds to her, wow. Clark is telling me it's okay to be afraid. And it's one of those things, and that drives her to be something more, and we see her step up to the plate. Those moments I was like, heck yeah. I knew this was coming. When I saw the cover, I'm like, oh no. And I don't know about you, and I'm not saying I'm Nostradamus because I'm not. In this case, they've been teasing this all, I think, in Last Will and Testament where we saw him with Dad. I think in this issue where in this storyline where we saw covers of him with Dad, I'm like, oh, they are so laying out who's got the target on them. Pa.
Man, I tell you, I don't know how I feel.
I don't either.
I love the story. It was beautifully told.
Agreed.
And I was just like, oh, this is a worthy death, and maybe will Clark be able to save him? Who knows? I don't know yet. We haven't seen that part of it, but it doesn't look good for Paul Kent. It does not, and I'm like,
I think he's a goner.
I think so too. I think so too.
This is very much like a Superman the movie type of moment where the heart attack and all that he's done, and the way it was done, I just can't imagine him coming back. I'm not a big fan of character death. I think it can be well written. I don't get angry over it per se. I don't know how I feel about this one because I've loved the Kents since the John Byrne revamp where both of them stayed alive.
Yeah,
I really liked that because I've loved seeing him with Dad. And those moments are just fantastic. And, you can still do that through flashbacks and still tell those emotions. So, there's reasons. To me, whether or not there was a point to this is what they do afterwards. So after this, if there's storytelling that comes from this and they have a plan, which I know they do, this is we're talking about Johns, Robinson. From what I've read from Supergirl, we'll talk more about Supergirl next week with Sterling Gates. So far, what I'm seeing, there's a plan in place.
Oh, definitely
there's a reason for this. So
yeah.
I'm okay with this. I don't like it because I like Pa Kent.
Yeah.
So it's an emotional death that means something to me because I like the guy, and he feels alive to me.
Yeah, my reaction is based solely on the fact that I'm going to miss him.
Yeah.
It's not anything negative about the story.
No, not at all.
It's this guy who is a great guy who I would want. I'd want the guy for my dad. I'd go to him, Pa, what do you think here? If I was Superman, that's the kind of guy I would want for my father. Yeah. He is that, Kansas farmer who has that upbringing, that strong moral fiber that says do right.
No compromises of who he is, right or wrong.
Right. It's who but also he's this guy who could deal with all the craziness that is Clark's life and take it with a grain and take it in stride, react and just, hey, don't worry, we'll Bebop will react, we'll bob and weave, swerve, take it what's got to go on.
You don't have to have powers to inspire.
Exactly.
To have a strong identity of who you are and a strong moral code. Everybody can have different moral codes, but to be able to stand in the face of... It's funny, when I talk about Jonah Hex, I'm going to talk about the fact that where Western characters work is because in the face of everybody else is doing, they kind of stand for who they are, right or wrong, and in the face of that, they don't compromise who they are. That's why these Western heroes, when you see them in spaghetti westerns and all that, they kind of stand out. It fits for Pa Kent. He's the Kansas farmer in an age around him where everything went technological and all that. He maintained who he is. My wife's parents do this. It's a great example in the face of all this technology and things like that. They're farmers. They've got farmland. They kind of went out there and that was the life they wanted, something a little simpler for themselves. And we always say that simpler like it's a mocking thing. It's not. In this case, it's something where it's a way of life. It's a way of choosing to live. A little bit more in touch with the land, a little bit away from all that extra stuff that's out there. It's really interesting to see people that choose that lifestyle to stick to it in the face of where we're kind of pushed now that we've got to have like 8 different gadgets to do everything. Mm-hmm. And I do. It's so I know you do too. It's one of those things. It's kind of like you either embrace it or you kind of make your own path. And I do respect people that can make their own. I can't. I'm so stuck to my technology and things. But that's where I think like Pa Kent works for me, because I'm like they kind of chose to stand in the face of that and kind of just be themselves, and I like it. It's really kind of cool. So there's something unique and special. But he saved Metropolis. He saved Kandor. Promises to come back and save those other people from Brainiac. And I love that he puts Brainiac in a place where he can't control everything because, the way Earth is, and just kind of, that is like, this is the way I'm going to stick it to you. I love that. It was great.
In the murky swamp somewhere, and it's just, It's a great way. Yeah, it's one of those know your enemy, know his weakness, and you could see him seeing all just the all the whatever germs and all that type of stuff. You can just imagine he was just this, being that it's the computer, a living computer, so everything's clean and scientific and sterile. Not anymore. Welcome to Earth.
Right. And that's, wow. And it worked. It so worked on a great level for me. I'm really curious. In 2 weeks, we're going to be getting this special,
the new Krypton special. Oh, I'm looking forward to that because it was funny. As we're talking about new Krypton, it didn't really sink in what exactly we're going to be dealing with.
No.
I was thinking new Krypton, another planet somewhere, not on Earth. I was like, oh my God, we now have a city of Supermen. Wow, that's
people aren't going to be interesting. Like that.
No, especially if they venture outside of Kandor. If they leave Kandor and start venturing, exploring Earth. I think it's, every city has its own Superman now.
Especially in America. Especially in America, think about it. We're supposed to be the melting pot, okay? We don't handle differences well.
No.
We really don't. And it's one of those things, it's a problem. It's a major problem. And this is going to be interesting commentary on the fact that I think we've come a long way as a society. I really do. So it's not all negative. I do think we've come a long way. But I think we have a long way to go. And I'm glad stories like this get told. Because I think it's important for us to kind of think about that and kind of realize that we all as individuals need to kind of keep pushing that farther and not get so caught up in all that stuff. It's one of the reasons why I like things like the X-Men, growing up with stuff like that, because it's so cool to have that kind of statement on society. And I think this new Krypton story, is going to do something equally as interesting, where I think a lot of the problems are going to be bred by society's own issues. And I think it's great. I think it's really cool because it's social commentary, and that's where comics, I think, do something neat. In that they can really kind of in their face take these fantastic fantasy characters and somehow make a statement like, hey, this, wake up, people.
Yeah.
And I love that. So it's really kind of a cool thing. I'm excited for this. Before we talk about Robin, number 178, I want to give a shout out to Freddie Williams II. His mother passed away.
Oh, man. Sorry, man.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. He's a wonderful, for those of you who have heard our interviews with him before, he's been on CGS, he's been on multiple podcasts. He's one of those guys that he embraces the comic fan community. So I just wanted to give him a shout out. He's a friend of the show, and just want to give him, a lot of our thoughts and prayers are with you. And that's really all I can say at this point, but it's one of those things. But we were going to have him on to do an interview about it, and I didn't want to wait to talk about his book because I'm really enjoying Robin so much, and I think it's really appropriate to start talking about this book because he and Fabian have been doing such a wonderful job since he came back on it. I could feel the excitement in his artwork of it. You can tell he's trying to, for those of you that read his Robin run before, I think you can tell if you really take a look at some of those older issues and now, you can see he's trying to make a different statement with this book and really trying to take Robin to a new level. And it's...
Yeah, I've said this before on the show, and I'll repeat myself again and probably multiple times in the future. Freddie is my Robin artist. When I went back and got all the full Robin runs, there was some good artists there, but there were so many times when I was reading a story going, man, I wish Freddie had drawn this. Oh, I wish Freddie had drawn this. Because he captures the childish innocence, but also we're seeing the darker turn of Robin, who's got to accept more responsibilities, but he's still trying to be the kid. He's still trying to be Robin. He's not trying to be Batman, but he kind of needs to. He kind of needs to change his role a little bit. He needs to think differently because it's, without the world without Batman.
He's got to mature in a way and take on a role and responsibility that Batman was driven to in a way that he hasn't been driven. And it's interesting. What is Gotham without Batman? How long can it last? Gang wars on the streets. All seems to be more and more possible due to his disappearance. And, it's, this thing with Spoiler. is to me so interesting. Can you come back to your old relationship? You know, she was gone for quite a long time. Time passes, you change, and either the relationship changes with it or it no longer fits into your life. It's an interesting exploration. What relationship's going to survive here for Tim? Is it going to be Tim and Zoanne, or Tim and Stephanie going to find a way to move on together during all this?
Or is it going to be Robin and Spoiler? Yeah. It's not a love triangle. It's a love pentagon. I love that line. I was like, oh, yes, exactly. There's just so many variations. And, because even before this, Robin, Tim was kind of, Robin was with Spoiler, Tim was with Zoanne. So he was kind of like, two-timing, if you will, between both of them. And now it's all meshing and what's going to happen? It was just...
And not really completely dealing with the betrayal that he feels from Stephanie. Because multiple secrets. Batman knew she was alive but never told him. Or, he had speculation but never told him. And to protect him in many ways, if you believe that someone that somebody loved is still alive, unless, you can produce that person, you don't want to tell them that, he, to a certain extent, Batman had to feel guilt because he should have protected her. That was Robin at that point in time. And it's an interesting, relationship. I can see what Batman did. I can see why it's wrong too. I was so glad though that it redeemed.
Yeah, the Doctor.
Yes. Because I was not happy at all when they originally had done that, and I'm glad to see that redemption has come through.
Glad to see they have an explanation why there was no Stephanie memorial case. He's like,
yes.
And just everything going on with that. I've been just loving Spoiler, and I'm like, I want to see more of her.
What do you think's going on with her now?
You know what?
Is she on the side of the Angels? Is she a double agent? What's going on? What do you think? Is she a bad guy?
I'm thinking double agent, to be honest. I think she is trying to see who wants to set up Robin, who wants to make a play on Gotham so that she can help Tim, because she feels guilty because of the betrayal, because of keeping the secrets. I think she's seeing who out there is trying to take out Robin.
Do you think she's doing this on Batman's orders?
No.
Did she set this up with Batman? Because she and Batman had some conversations that we are just finding out about.
I don't think so.
Because he set up a plan with her. What is the plan that he set up with her?
I don't know. I don't think so. But if it turns out that was the case, I would say, okay, I like that just as much, if not more, than the fact that she's doing this on her own. Right now, part of me is saying she's doing this on her own because I don't know if Bruce would intentionally put her in such a harm's way.
A lot of what he's had to do, though, we've seen it in Batman the Outsiders, too.
Yeah.
I think he had no choice, and he's trying to set things up in a way. So I don't know. I'm not saying that I'm 100% convinced of that. I'm just throwing out a possibility. So I don't know. I'm with you in the sense that it could be either way.
Now I tell you, one of the things I've always loved, the Tim Drake character, and just, as I said earlier, we're seeing him grow and mature, but just his reaction to people, like with Ragman. Ragman's saying how, hey, let them fight, let them kill. He's like, no, that's not the way we do things. And he's sticking to the code of the Bat. He's sticking to that, I'm going to prevent the gang war from happening, not, reaction from it. Using the gang war, reactionary to it, that might be Ragman's style. That's definitely Jason Todd's style. That's not Tim Drake. That's not Batman. He'll find a way to defeat it. And you're seeing that preparation aside, Tim's in the Batcave repairing the Bat computer that we saw get destroyed in R.I.P. You see him dealing just, with trying to piece together, running, possible outcomes, scenarios of, okay, how's this going to play out? What would happen here? How much of prevention of crime is Batman's presence alone? It's all these different scenarios. Yeah. We're seeing the heir to the cowl. This Tim Drake is the person who could one day put on the cowl and could one day become Batman, but he's not trying to do it now. He knows he's not Batman.
What's far more interesting about Tim is the fact that he shouldn't be Batman, and he should be something else. He's going to take this role to a different level and do things in a way, maybe in some ways, he inspires Batman to be something else other than what he is. And that's always been the strength of Robin. So I think this is going to be an interesting exploration as that Tim needs Batman as much as Batman needs Tim. And I think we're going to see that in this arc. Yeah. That I think we're seeing him dwell down a dark path that he really shouldn't. And that's where that partnership works. They keep each other from going down that path.
Yeah, I tell you, talk about just like characters and just characterizations of people. We're seeing once again stellar Alfred writing, stellar Dick Grayson writing, and that when Dick entered the computer entered the cave on the motorcycle, that was just one great writing as well as great artwork. I loved seeing that. It's the
commenting on the style. It's like,
and it's only Dick Grayson could pull that off. Tim admits it. Everyone who knows him would admit that's something that only Dick Grayson could pull off. And it looked really like a cool maneuvers. It was just like, oh yes.
I was really into the Chuck Dixon run when Chuck Dixon was on it, and I was worried when I heard that somebody was going to be taking over. I'm really liking this right now. I don't know if do we need another writer now of Robin? And I got to say, kudos to Fabian for taking everything that has worked before him.
Yeah.
And bring in. He did his homework. This doesn't feel like a new run. It definitely feels like he's taking it in a new direction and adding something to it, while at the same time bringing in everything from before, keeping the Robin fans who have been reading it for so long on the ride. And I really like that. I give a lot of credit to that, because this definitely feels like the same book.
And it's not a choppy thing either.
No,
He's taken it in a new direction, but it's this slow flow through, and we're seeing this. And I'm curious to see what continues happening. But we know Bruce comes back. How is the story going to be when Bruce comes back? How is Tim going to be with Bruce? That's the story I'm looking forward to.
I think, boy, we got to talk about R.I.P. because what is going on there is a whole other mess.
Yeah.
So this is really interesting. I don't know what else to say about this book other than it's just great. And I got to say, Robin right now, Nightwing right now, the Batman books, Batman and the Outsiders, they're books that I was all worried about, because a lot of change has been going on with those books, and all the changes have been great because they've kept everything that's been special about those books.
And one more thing, that cover, that could be a poster.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that could be a poster.
The 178 cover, sure.
The 178 with Tim standing, the darkened alley, kind of like he's standing at Crime Alley, maybe. Maybe he's not. Maybe it's just a darkened street. The end is near right there. Oh, I'd buy that as a poster.
Speculation on who Red Robin is? Do you think good, bad?
Oh, I got an idea.
Who?
I think it's Bruce.
Why do you think it's Bruce?
It's just something that popped in my head. I don't have a lot of evidence to back it. Actually, I have no evidence. It's just a pure thing. I was like, hey, I wonder if that could be Bruce. Maybe that's Bruce's way of keeping an eye on things. Maybe this is another personality. We know it's not Jason Todd. We know that for certain. And we know the Red Robin from the alternate Earth was killed, and I don't think they bring in an alternate Red Robin. First thought that popped in my head is like, I wonder if that's Bruce, man.
That idea is cool. I don't think it, though.
Yeah,
it doesn't work for me.
That's the first thought that popped in my head.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. I just don't see, with everything that's going on with him, I don't see him taking on yet another role. I think he's having enough problems getting himself settled into who he is right now, much less it doesn't fit. But I could be wrong. Who knows?
I know. Who knows?
So you think that Red Robin's a good guy then?
Yes. I definitely think Red Robin's one of the good guys.
See, I don't.
You don't?
No, I'm
so
on
far
the other
he's
end.
done nothing but save Robin.
But he seems to be tied in some way with these people who are out to get him from some of this. I don't know. See, I'm not taking him that he's going to be a good guy. I'd like to be wrong because I think it's cool, but I don't know. It's interesting.
Now, I got a question for you. The end of the issue, we see...
Well, he kind of set up Jason, didn't he?
Well, he kind of set up Jason, but he did save, Tim twice.
Right. It's interesting.
So he's always been there, and he's always helped Tim out. He hasn't helped out Jason, but then again, forget Jason. So that's, but I don't know.
But didn't he at the one time cut Tim's line, or am I... No.
I don't remember him cutting Tim's line.
Okay. That one time that Tim's line got cut. Was that Jason who did that?
I thought that was Jason who cut the line. Because he was swooping in, and he and Jason were in the middle of the fight.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. For some reason, he's rubbing me that he's the bad guy. But I might be wrong.
You could be wrong. Yeah, I could be wrong. It could be somebody else.
No, it's fun to... I threw it out there as speculation, not as far as like a definitive answer.
Yeah.
I'm taking it that he's not on the side of the Angels, but unless he is somebody underneath that cowl that would be...
Yeah. Or it could be, he could very easily be a villain, and it's one of those, you got to get Robin to drop his guard, and then you can strike.
I really would not like him to be Bruce if he turns out to be the case. And the only reason why is I think Bruce has got so much on his plate right now. I'm like, what, he's got yet another? That would be, I'm like, oh, that's kind of hokey. Yeah. But we'll see. Let's see what happens. I'm intrigued. Let me put it that way. I am very intrigued as to who this Red Robin is. I honestly would not mind if he was a good guy. I don't care if he's a bad guy. I'm into the story. That's why I'm even speculating on it. So I don't have a lot of evidence as far as one way or another. It's kind of a gut feeling I have is he's not a good guy.
Okay, yeah, and it very easily could be a bad guy. I don't know. Okay. It's one of those mysteries that I'm enjoying them unfolding. They keep doing little blips of him. I know we're going to have the issue where they have a heavy Red Robin where we see who it is, or we get a better glimpse as to who the guy is. I know it's coming, so I'm patiently waiting for it.
I think that's kind of why I'm not really I haven't really delved in and tried to find, because I'm just enjoying the ride right now.
Yeah.
So it's probably the biggest compliment I can give is that I really right now I just want to see it unfold in the book. Mm-hmm. So I just threw it out there because I think it was interesting to chat about.
Now, the issue ends with a return of a quote-unquote classic Robin villain, General Ulysses. And I tell you, I like the new look to him. I like the fact that they acknowledge that he looks a little older. He said he had the growth spurt. And, because the previous issues, one of the things I did have an issue with the character was he's this little kid who has this great military mind and he's a strategist and all that. But I would never have been afraid or intimidated of him because he could backhand a little snot. This is somebody who, if I tried to backhand, that dude would drop me hard and fast. So I kind of like this change that we're seeing. What did you think of the guy?
Well, I liked it too. I like the sense of progression with it as well. I'm still thinking of Red Robin.
Oh, okay.
Another part of me is wondering if maybe, because it seems like Stephanie has a relationship with him, I'm wondering if it's her dad, Cluemaster.
Could be. That could be Cluemaster, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm kind of going way out there with it too. No, to touch on what you're saying with General Ulysses, though, I gotta agree with you. I like the sense of progression with him too. I like that it fits from a storytelling sense. To me, instead of bring him back.
Yeah, tougher. Bring him back.
Sure.
A little bit more of a. This is somebody who could throw down with Robin now. Before, it would have been just over one punch.
Well, yeah, and why bother? Why bother bringing him back if you're not going to add something to Tim by bringing him back? And I like that. I want to talk real quick, Jim, about Vinyl Underground number 12. I didn't know this was the final issue of this series. I know you haven't read it yet, which is I'm not going to go crazy into it, but it was kind of a nice little wrap up of the series. But I'm sad to see it go because I've really been enjoying that book. It's my like I said, it's been kind of my Torchwood when Torchwood hasn't been on television. And it's felt like that kind of vibe for me, and I was sad to see this go. So it's another one of those books, but I highly recommend it to people if you haven't picked this up. It's only 12 issues. Pick up the run and really dive into this one because it's a lot of fun for fans of Torchwood. Issue 12 definitely ties everything up. It was clear that they kind of had to tie things up quickly, but they did do a nice job, I think, of doing it. That's all I really have to say about it at the moment because I don't want to spoil it for you. And at this point, with it being the last issue of the series, it's kind of more so I would say to people, if you like Torchwood, if you like X-Files, that kind of combo, this is a series that you're definitely going to want to miss. Definitely not going to want to miss. You get about 3 different cases in the 12-issue arc of this team, and I hope at some point we get them back in a miniseries.
Yeah, and
I know sales numbers were probably the issue for this, and it's a sad thing because it's a good book, really good book.
Yeah, it was a nice mystery book too. These are regular people that we didn't really have meta. We had some mystics, some magic, kind of tied into there. We had some science tied into it, but it was predominantly a mystery book,
edgy mystery.
So it was a neat read. It was a fun read. It was an intriguing read that had me a lot of times wondering, okay, where are they going to go with this?
But they were cool characters. Each one of them had their own unique quirks, and that was kind of the neat thing about all of them, and the relationships and how they played off each other. Definitely a mature read, but very well written, very smart, and just a fun read. I also want to talk about House of Mystery number 6. I've been very Vertigo happy at the moment. It's the story of a group of people from very different eras trapped in the House of Mystery. New people come and go, but certain people can't leave. And that's the twist of the whole thing. They can't get out. They have no choice. Travelers pay for their keep by telling a story. Issue 6 starts off with a new arc, as new arrival Fig has a connection to the house, which we've seen in previous issues. She's able to draw maps of it. The most recent is a map of a basement labyrinth. And the overarching story is the cast preparing a small crew to try and invade this labyrinth in hopes of finding a way out. And even that seems too easy, as Fig gets the idea that maybe her traveling partners aren't being completely truthful. So it's an interesting little twist on this one. But also in this issue, we learn the background of the female pirate captain. She has this tragic story of saving the life of a violin player in hopes of getting, treasure, and falling in love with him along the way, but then having him turn on her. And let's just say you're going to want to read this story because you're going to learn to fear a woman scorned. And it's one of those moments where, yeah. I can't recommend this enough for fans of Matthew Sturgis's other work, though. It's a definite must-read for me when it arrives, and I'm right up to date with it because it's just a fun, fantastic Vertigo read. So it's especially, I kind of wanted to shout this one out in the wake of Vinyl Underground ending with issue 12. I'm like, boy, please pick up House of Mystery because I like this book. So it's one, but issue 6 is a good jumping on point because it's the beginning of a new arc. So for people who are kind of like, well, I don't know if I want to jump on this right now, this is a good point to jump on because you can pick up one issue, and if you like it, fine. But you get the whole complete pirate story in there, even though there's the overarching story. Yeah. That's a nice thing about House of Mystery. If you don't, if you pick it up and you're like, oh, it's not my cup of tea, you do get a complete pirate story within this thing. It's very cool.
And you do, it's a cool pirate story as well. So it's not just, hey, you get this pirate story. No, I read it a couple times. How many times when I was just reading it now, how many times you hear me go, yeah. There's a couple really cool scenes that.
And she's a cool character.
Yeah, she's
really
definitely
is.
a cool character, and yeah, yes, ma'am.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm on board. I want to talk real quickly about Jonah Hex number 36, because in this issue we learn the history of the Confederate uniform, why Hex wears it and where his loyalty lies. What I love about Hex is that nothing is simple. He's a good Western badasses work because they can say or do the things that we just can't. They are the things that on many levels, when we're at our highest emotions of anger or disappointment, we wish we could say. They are things we wish we were moral enough to do many times, in the sense that they stand their ground and never back down, no matter what, right or wrong. And it's, I love that one would assume that Hex is a racist because, he wears that Confederate uniform. But we learn throughout this story that he wasn't actually from the South. And it's interesting that because of a misunderstanding, he is almost hung to death, but is saved by an early iteration of the Klan that murders the people trying to hang Hex. Which obviously they're African-American people that are, making an assumption with him. And the uniform for Hex is not just something he earned, but a reminder of the shame from that time. He considers himself neither blue nor gray. It is a sense of morality that he would risk being persecuted or misunderstood to prove something to himself that works for me. He cares little what others think, but sticks to his own code. And that's where, your best Western characters work, because nobody would do that. Yeah. But you all say, boy, I wish I had the chutzpah to do it. Yeah. I wish I could carry myself that way. But none of us really can. And that's what is so cool about it, because you kind of live vicariously through him. He's the guy on the day where your boss is annoying you or something like that, and you just want to throw a shoe at him. Hex would.
Yeah, he would.
Hex would be the ultimate temp.
Oh, God.
Because he wouldn't last at a job more than a day.
But could you see him in a cube? No, see, I could not see him in a cube. That would just be a,
I couldn't see it remaining a cube. You're confining my space. And what do you say to that?
Yeah.
Other than we're not calling back Mr. Hex tomorrow.
Yeah. We've decided to go a different route with the job applicant. Thank you for your time and have a nice day.
Really pleasant to see you. There's a movie coming out for Hex. It's in the early development stages, but I guess one of the people rumored is Josh Brolin. I don't know how true that is, but I saw that in one of it's one of the rumored. So take it for it's one of those website rumors, which means it's probably 100% untrue. But it'd be an interesting casting because I think he would do the role really well.
Yeah, he could do the role.
Yeah, so it's and I guess they're going to be going off of. I don't know what they're going off of, which version of Hex they're going off of, but there's so many great versions to pull from Vertigo to the current run to whatever. I can't imagine you wouldn't pull from this current run because it's very contemporary. So
yeah, I don't know. That's
a lot of rich history there.
Yeah, it's a definite. That's another movie that we'll have to see, and if it ever gets made. Now they've talked about movies for Hex before, and they always die.
There's this new Warner Brothers initiative, though. I was reading in, I think it was a new issue of Wizard, that now Warner Brothers is kind of waking up and smelling the coffee with the success that Marvel's had, and I think we're going to finally start seeing. I know Green Lantern's been pushed up in the
Come on.
rankings, you know? Yeah, it's kind of like, duh.
Think about that. That's, for me, it's always something that always angers me. Whenever I see any TV shows, any movie initiatives, why not Green Lantern?
Oh, yeah.
Because with the special effects we have today, we could have some really cool ring slinging going on.
Of course we could.
Talk about marketing. Come on. You know, how many Green Lanterns fans are out there? They want a ring, but they don't want to drop like a couple $100.
The technology that was used to make the Matrix is the technology that you need to make Green Lantern.
Exactly.
It's that simple. The
it's
technology's already there because it's that kind of a, you know, I'm not saying that those are identical movies, but I'm saying it's that kind of out there technology that really is going to make an interesting Green Lantern movie.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is where you can start throwing all kinds of things on the screen that just really you could never put there before. Rubber suits don't work for Green Lantern. You know, it's got to be, you've got to see that technology and glowing rings and all kinds of nonsense going on the screen. And I want to see the core in there too. We better see the core.
If they do a Green Lantern movie, and I've always said that if they do a Green Lantern movie, they shouldn't do an origin movie. They should do it mid-core. Have like a 10-second briefing in the beginning, like, in the beginning, the Guardians of the Galaxy formed this organization, the Green Lantern Corps. And it was just like, you know, something like that, and then just jump right into Hal, you know, with John and even Guy, and actually show, you know, them fighting and doing, you know, open action sequence. Within the action sequence, you could introduce the yellow weakness.
Oh, dude,
you can do all
what?
types of some fun stuff.
I completely disagree with you. I want to see the moment where we see that look on his face when he realizes what he puts on, when he puts on that ring on his finger for the first time. I'm not saying that the whole movie has to be an origin. I want to at least see those scenes in there. Maybe it'll be flashbacks if it's not going to be an origin movie. But I definitely want to see the moment where Hal first puts on the ring, if it's Hal, you know, whoever it is. It doesn't matter which Green Lantern they pull from. I want to see that moment, though, where I feel like I want to be that guy putting on that ring. And it's got to be filmed right, where they show you just how cool. Oh, yeah, man, look what this thing does. And I want to see that sense of wonder. So I know I want to see that somewhere in the film.
I would say a flashback
even if it's not an origin movie, flashback's fine with me. I'm fine with that. But we got to see those moments because those are money moments, dude. I want to see that because I want to believe I could be Green Lantern. I want to see somebody go through that, and I want to put myself in that place.
Yeah, see, I would say flashback sequence for that because I agree.
Whatever.
That would be a cool sequence.
Sure.
You know? And of course,
his origin story though. Hey, wait a minute.
Well,
you could make a film out of the origin arc that's going. I'm going to talk about Green Lantern in a few minutes.
Yeah,
we can talk about that.
Right into it.
We can talk about that origin arc right now. Plug that baby right in. You've got it written. That's your script.
Yeah, hand
him the 7-parter.
I agree with you. I'm not even going to argue that case. I think that would make a good movie as well. But I'm
because
just
you had the core in that.
Because here's
Sinestro and put all those guys.
You know, we do see the core. We do see Hal. We do see all of that. So that would actually be a cool movie. I was just thinking that because we constantly see these origin movies.
And you don't
Why
have
don't
to
we
do
just jump right in there and just throw right in the action? That's, for me, that's what hurt the Fantastic Four movies. That they went the origin route, and it took so long for them to become the Fantastic Four, for them to have their first big fight with Doom. You know, that's for me.
I'm not saying you can't speed up the origin, though.
Right.
But certainly, with the way that the Johns arc worked, there's a lot of action in that baby. You could, literally, I think that's 7-part origin. That would make a great movie.
Yeah. Dude,
because there's a ton going on there.
I'd see it, and well, heck,
I'm not saying that's what they're going to do. My preference would be. I'm with you though, in the sense that I want lots of action. I want to see lots of ringing, slinging, but I do want to see the moments where he first gets the ring and what that's like, and I want to see the cool moments where we see him fly with the ring for the first time. Stuff that we see sometimes in a good Superman origin story, where we see him jumping around on the farm and stuff like that. I want to see it with the ring though. I want to see him creating things with the ring for the first time and how neat that is. That to me is. That's the cool part about Green Lantern, because we all want to be him.
Yeah.
I want that ring.
Yeah. I know. Dude, come on. You know, I'd love to have that as well.
And we all would.
And it's funny, because every single time I see a Green Lantern ring for sale somewhere, whether it's at like different cons, whether it's at, on the internet, it's like, no, I'm not a ring guy. I don't wear rings. I'm like, but that would be so cool.
See, I'm trying to find one of those old, Gremlins like Mogwai places that sell weird things to see if somebody's got a real lantern. Because we all need the thing to recharge it, so it's like, see, I'm looking for reality.
I'm looking for reality. See, I'm looking for reality.
See, I go to flea markets with an entirely different purpose. Because you know somebody's going to have a weird table that they're going to have something real like that.
Okay. So
Anyway,
part seven.
Green Lantern number 35, which was part 7 of the origin arc. I was so ready for this. From the Black Hand to the Red Lanterns, I love how this arc added something to the mythos and made me understand Sinestro in a way that I never have. He's a darn cool villain, hero, who knows what he is out of all this, because I'm not entirely sure anymore. The way he acts as a leader and actually listens to Hal in the face of the Guardians, causing some change in how the Lanterns operate, was a wow moment for me, because it showed me a side of Sinestro that I never understood why he saw himself as the greatest of Green Lanterns. They called him that.
Yeah. And I tell you, I loved just his interaction with the villains as he was captured at the very end there, where they basically instilled in him the fear. And it was a little subtle moment where they're talking about how your planet will be under riot. It'll be under siege. You know, there's nothing you can do about it. And that, of course, is one of the things that motivates him to have such a tighter reign on his planet, which in turn gets him kicked out of the Corps for instilling fear. Right there is where they instilled the fear in him. That is the turning point of Sinestro from the greatest Green Lantern to the villain of the story. And I was just like, oh, man.
His sense of justice and order come through here, because I like how we see a very strong Hal here who understands fear and what the failure of the Manhunters did to the Guardians. They have set themselves up to be protected from their own police force, and in many ways set up some of the divisions that we see that lead to the other rings. You know, they kind of bred that unwillingly. And I'm very into this whole world of the Green Lantern universe at the moment. It's top-notch writing, because it makes me excited that this leads right into the Final Crisis Rage of the Red Lanterns. Like, that's the next thing we should be reading.
Beginning, yeah.
And this is the way to redo an origin. Keep it true to the original. Add something that builds to the storytelling for all of us to enjoy. There's a point to it, and I love it. It's really great. This should be a template for how, if you're going to redo an origin for whatever reason to, update it or modernize it, give us something new. Give us some new storytelling out of it. Something that's going to make us re-examine and re-understand how all this works.
But it's still true to the original.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're holding on to that original story arc, guess what? It's still there. Everything that happened in that original story arc is still there. He still got it from Abin Sur. Abin Sur crashed on Earth on a ship and died and reached out with the ring and pulled Hal Jordan, who's working for Ferris Erica. All of that is still 100% true, but there's now just a little bit extra that they didn't tell before. It's just simply, it wasn't part of the story before, but it actually happened then. So boom, there's no continuity, there's no craziness on which is the real. No, it is all that. It's just there's now another piece to the puzzle.
Can we talk real quickly about the Smallville Green Arrow episode?
Oh yeah,
because I really want to talk about that one. It was a very good episode. Ollie gets knocked out, and we get to see his origin while he's knocked out. But the cool thing is, Ollie's knocked out in such a way that he's going to die. And it has to do with his origin. It has to do with the flower that was on the island that he was on. And I love how he knows what he's dealing with, and he's trying to, in many ways, give them the information. Like, don't take me to the hospital. I'm going to die if you take me to the hospital, because the current medicine is going to kill me. And we get to see that, because another victim kind of goes through what Ollie goes through, gets the same kind of disease and winds up dying from this whole thing. I really enjoyed this whole thing, though, seeing him training himself to be Green Arrow, seeing him missing the targets, gradually getting better, crafting his own bow, eventually, and the moments, the slow motion moments where we see the arrow splitting the other arrow that was dead on target. Vintage Ollie. Just seeing him do it blindfolded, too. Again, vintage Ollie. I loved all these moments. His moments with Tess, where we see the selfish boy who, grew up kind of with money and wealth, and, that this stay on the island made him realize that he needed to re-examine himself and come up with a purpose for himself outside of that. And in many ways, it drove him in a Batman-like way, which is very fitting to his origin, except not down a dark path. It drew him down a path where he just said, hey, I need to make a difference. I need to make some change. I need to do something with myself. And it starts now. And I love that when he's talking to Tess Mercy from, it was just, it's interesting how those two got thrown together, and they have a rich history, and how she has gone down a path that's led her to run Luther Corp.
And yeah, who knows? We're getting glimpses of her, and we're seeing just the first, basically, if you will, heartbreak when she saw her friend, die. And was killed in cold blood right in front of her, and
to make an example for Green Arrow,
right?
And how he put his life on the line, diving in front of her to make sure she didn't die. Seeing again the first steps of him being completely unselfish and putting her life beforehand, and recognizing that they want him alive, they keep her safe.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting to see that drama unfold and the escape, and I loved the confrontation between the two of them at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just more we're going to get from that. There's a couple more chapters between those two. Obviously, they had
he's going to be
some type of relationship.
Yeah.
But I think once again, more cool Chloe moments though.
Oh yeah.
When she's sitting there going through the computers, running all of them at super speed, and Clark's like, "What's going on here?" And it was funny. I didn't even think of her interaction with Brainiac from the last season as a cause of this. I was just thinking it was her meteor power, and they're like, well, hold on, this hasn't happened since Brainiac. I'm like, oh my god, duh. Why did I think of that? And, so is this her meteor freak power, or is that burned out? I don't know. What's going on? It's one of those, what's going to happen here? I don't know. And once again, it's more, unknown mysteries in in Smallville, that just as it's going to, flow out, and also, Lois, once you see the cool character that she is, she's not just the hard thing. No. You see the soft side of her that,
and
afterwards
from Ollie still being there, yeah.
And of course, afterwards, she would never admit it.
No,
we still have classic Lois there, but we do see her let her guard down.
Love the moment when Clark put his hand on her shoulder.
Yeah.
That was a very cool moment for me, because you got to see him there being the comforting, consoling. And that's the moments where you get to see where her opinions of Clark are changing and why they are. Because he is a consoling friend. You can tell there's a little something going on there that neither of them are at a point where they would even admit, but there is. And yet, here he's man enough to say, old boyfriend, I'm still going to support you. I thought it was cool, because we all want to be that selfless, that we care about somebody enough that we would do that. And I think that was a very cool moment. He was, it again showed another side to Clark that I really like. This season's been very good so far. I've really, really liked it. I was worried that, what can they do now, to keep it going? And they did the right thing by keeping the supporting cast changing. The interesting thing with Chloe and Jimmy now, she's keeping secrets from Jimmy again.
Yeah.
Which never goes well for her. And how much of that is Jimmy going to take?
Come on, you got to learn. You don't keep secrets from the person you're about to marry.
No,
that's not a good thing.
Especially not with the cute paramedic guy that she's obviously attracted to. You see that moment where she's like, she looks at him all moony-eyed, so it's kind of like, no.
Oh, come on, Chloe.
Yeah.
You've learned. Haven't you learned from the past?
Yeah. And the second you saw him, you knew that, because she's been eyeing him ever since, he's come on the scene. And she gets all stumbly over words and stuff like that, so it's kind of like, ugh. Now, if it was, if I was sitting there, it was my girl, I would be asking questions. Like, where is Jimmy in all this?
Yeah, where is he? What's going on, Olsen? Come on. Yeah, come on, Olsen Bug. You're blowing it again.
Yeah, time to come home. So, whatever he's doing, it's like, stop. Pay a little bit more attention to Chloe. Manning up, taking care of our boy.
Yeah,
it's a good show, though. It really is a good show.
Yeah, and there's been, of course, on the internet, there's always negative buzz and, jump the shark. Oh, you know what? I don't see it as that. And I'll be the first to throw out there when something jumps the shark that I'm liking. And for me, this is still, last season, there was a couple episodes where I was like, man, guys, I don't know. This one, out of the gate, it's hitting me hard, and I'm loving it.
Because I do think there's times where Smallville has jumped the shark, but I think it's, jumped back over again.
Right.
And I will say that. So I understand when people say that, but I think when people say jump the shark, they think that the show has no opportunity. I think a good show, the writers start to realize, okay, we jumped the shark, so we need to do something to make it interesting again. And that's why I think this season we saw lots of changes. I think the fact that some of the cast decided not to come back was a good thing for the show. And that's no insult. I loved the cast that was there before, but I think, Lana being gone, that story, that's the Lana story jumped the shark. it's done.
Yeah.
Time to move on now and do some other things. I'm glad that happened. Lionel, it's time for Lionel to go. Hate to say it, Lex, I'd love to see Lex come back. I definitely am glad that they didn't kill Lex, but at this point in time, this Tess Mercer stuff, I'm enjoying the exploration of Tess Mercer at the moment. So, and we're getting some interesting, with this paramedic, with rumors of who he might be and where that story might be heading, because he's a meta and we saw him like crumbled in the alley. Who knows where that's going to go? And
if it goes where everyone's rumoring, it's
that could be very interesting as well. So
I don't know. Here's the funny thing with me and Tess Mercer. Mm-hmm. I kind of wish Tess was like 2 seasons ago or 1 season ago, and they had taken like a season break from Lex, and we get Lex, with the rise of evil Lex while all this other stuff is going on. Is part of me kind of would,
or maybe it's seen a little bit of Tess.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you got to remember, this is in reaction to the fact that Michael Rosenbaum decided not to come back.
Right.
So that's where they had to get. So that's the reality of the whole thing is.
Yeah, they had to introduce another villain. They had to introduce, another.
So we get an exploration of her along the way, which is kind of that's where I think she worked really well in the Ollie story. Which if they had introduced her earlier, I don't think they would have done that.
No.
So I think that was a benefit. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting series so far. I'm curious to see if this is it, this season, or if we're going to see more. Because I thought last season was it. So I don't know. I'm interested. I mean, it's right now. I tune in every Thursday. I'm excited.
Yeah.
So,
a little kid. Oh, okay. Time for Smallville.
Yeah. So that's not jump the shark for me.
No.
But I can see certain episodes where people say that. I think it jumped back over.
It's for those of you who don't know what we're talking about when we say jump the shark, give you a quick explanation. In Happy Days,
you don't think most people know what this is?
There may be someone out there, just in case.
Right.
In Happy Days, when they're in Hawaii and Fonzie jumped over the shark tank, and the big cool motorboat scene when he was water skiing. The thing is, after that, Happy Days just completely went downhill. There were no more good, cool, hoorah moments for Happy Days. And from then on, they say jump the shark means a show is at its high point and it drops off after that.
See, for me, Happy Days jumped the shark when Roger came on. But that's my opinion. It was fine up till Roger came on. I
always wondered what happened to Chuck, man. The older brother Chuck that they had for the very first season of Happy Days.
They realized Chuck dropped the shark in the first season.
Come on. And Chuck was a cool guy. They had the one episode where Richie crashed at his pad because he had to get out of the house, and come on, that was a great episode. They should have we needed more Chuck.
Up Chuck.
Up Chuck.
Yeah. Jim Sensei of the Whatnot, president of Upchuck. He vomits. There we go. We threw a DC theme right back in there. You could wear little Bane masks. It'd be great. All right.
As I'm now considering that.
Yeah, I see the light bulb going on. Anyway, I also want to thank everyone for your patience this week. I had stomach flu or something or other. I actually got and with teaching, there's a ton of stuff that I have to do to get caught up with that. So I had to call you up and thank you because Jim actually is taking the lead on Terror Titans, which I was supposed to do, and you agreed to take that over because
I am.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Very funny. But I wanted to keep RIP, and I wanted to definitely chat about that one. So thank you, though, because you took some of the load off of me, and I want to thank everyone. Actually, we're back at our Sunday release date now, which wasn't planned at all. But what happened was I was looking at trying to record this on Saturday, and I just knew realistically I had so much stuff to do, there was no way. And actually, I called you, and you could tell I was in no condition to do any recording.
You were talking like this. It was like...
That's my Batman voice.
Yeah.
Although I didn't sound as intense.
Yeah.
So anyway, I want to thank all of you for your patience this week, and speaking of Batman R.I.P., let's talk about it.
Holy caffeine!
Hey guys, this is Mr. Winter from the forums. Just wanted to call and say great work on the latest podcast. I believe it's number 134. I listened to it over the weekend, had a great time. I particularly enjoyed the coverage of the Crisis-related books, the final Crisis-related books, Superman Beyond, and the Legion book. I actually had a pretty difficult time with the Superman Beyond book, in large part because of the 3D. So it was really nice to get someone else's take and clear up a few questions that I had as a result of probably not reading it as carefully or as thoroughly as I should have. Again, the 3D really kind of just gave me a headache reading it. But neat concept, a good book overall, and I definitely appreciated your commentary on it. I'm currently reading, in addition to the Final Crisis books, I'm currently reading 52 in trade paperback format. Issues are volumes 2, 3, and 4 through an Amazon Marketplace seller for next to nothing. They were gently used copies, but it was a great deal. I paid more for the shipping than I did on the actual books. And I picked up Volume 1 at my local comic book store. So about two-thirds of the way through 52, and again, I've had a great time going back and listening to your previous podcasts where you've gone through each episode or each book. And again, sort of comparing and contrasting your comments and analysis with my own. Next on deck for me is the Seven Soldiers, Volumes 1 and 2, also in trade paperback format. And again, I'm looking forward to listening to your analysis of those books. So it's been great fun. I definitely appreciate the podcast. Definitely the best comic book podcast on the web right now. So I'm a big fan, and keep up the great work. I do have one question. I would be curious to know, obviously you guys are pretty much a DC-specific podcast. I've not heard you mention if you do read books other than DC. If you do, I'd be curious to know what they are. If you've got any particular titles that you're devoted to, either Marvel or Dark Horse or anything else for that matter. And maybe I'd also be interested to know what your first experiences with DC were, if you can recall. If you started reading as a kid or later in life, and what the books were that sort of got you sucked into DC, sort of drew you in. So anyway, I'll quit rambling. But again, thanks for the great podcast, and keep up all the great work. Thanks. Bye.
Actually, before we even get into our own comments there, I want to thank him for letting me know. I always am flattered when people tell us that they have a use for our older episodes, that they're going back and, they're either reading something for the first time and they're going back to hear what we had to say about it. Because part of when we pay for our monthly fee to host the podcast, part of that monthly fee goes towards hosting our previous episodes that have been on there. That's one of the things with Liberated Syndication. They actually keep our old podcasts up there, so that's part of what we pay for. So I'm glad to hear that people are actually making use of that.
Reading them and using them and
that's good
listening
feedback.
to them. So yeah. Thank you.
It makes me feel good to know that those are up there and they're being used. Well, the first question he asked us was, what books are we reading outside of DC? And the funny part is, I constantly go to cons, and that's one of the things. I'll go down to Artist Alley, I'll go to panels, and I'll try to find things that I pick up. I have to admit, I try to shoot for things that aren't event-driven because of the fact that I'm reading so many books from DC. I try to read things that are contained. I will admit I'm reading some of the X books right now because I'm greatly enjoying them. Messiah Complex kind of got me the bug, but I'm very behind. I have been reading some of Marvel's Secret Invasion, but it's one of those things where I'll be better suited when it hits the trade for me to read that one, just because it's one of those things where when I get caught up on some of my reading for the show, I'll be glad to read it. But I mean, the stuff that I've read so far of the X books and Secret Invasion, I've been enjoying. So Marvel's doing a great job with those. Ed Brubaker is somebody I'm a big fan of, so I tend to follow a lot of Brubaker's work. Captain America, I'm very current on. I love Captain America. It's probably my favorite Marvel book right now, outside of, I would say, the Stephen King stuff that's going on right now. The Dark Tower books have been stellar. I'm a big Stephen King fan, so his Dark Tower stuff Peter David's doing over there with Robin Firth, I think, is just stellar. It's great reads. And I'm also enjoying right now The Stand, because they're doing a version of The Stand in a series of miniseries, but they're doing the whole thing. And
I know. I saw that.
Well, see, I'm having a lot of fun with that. My buddy Dan Rich from work, Dan is a big Stephen King fan as well, so this is kind of a bonding thing for us. I've been buying 2 copies of it from DCBS, of The Stand and Dark Tower, one for him and one for me. So I've been really enjoying grabbing those books because he and I get to chat back and forth about them. But I'm enjoying that. Invincible and Walking Dead from Image are 2 books that I probably would never drop in a million years. Madman. Michael Allred, I'm a huge fan of Michael Allred, so we're currently reading that one. I'm behind on it, though, because obviously anything I'm reading for the show comes first, and then I get to that. Echo by Terry Moore. Terry Moore is wonderful. I'm actually probably going to start picking up his Spider-Man Mary Jane stuff, because I like Terry's work so well, so I'm probably going to go and grab that one. So it's Terry. I do get author-driven. You and I went to the Chris Claremont panels. I have talked about Claremont multiple times on this show. He was the first comic creator I ever knew who the creator was. I picked up Uncanny X-Men 160, and it was something I took at Mid-Ohio Con. I took to get specifically signed by him. I've never met him before. And I was like, this was the first book that I ever picked that wasn't media-driven. You know, previously I'd read Spider-Man and Batman and the Justice League because of Super Friends, the Batman 60s show, Batman cartoons, and the Spider-Man cartoons and stuff like that, and Electric Company and all that stuff. Those were characters that I grew up with enjoying in the 70s because of media. I remember Uncanny X-Men, I was at French's Pharmacy. I went and I saw the issue. It was 160. It was the Blasco issue. One shot, Ileana gets pulled into the demon world, comes back up. She's aged, a number of years. I remember just being in awe of these characters. My first exposure to Wolverine, Colossus, Storm, characters like that, Kitty Pryde. And I remember reading that issue and Nightcrawler. I loved all those characters. And it was really cool to see them. I read that issue, probably 100 times because, I just kept reading it over and over again because I didn't have the kind of pull list that I did now. But that was the first time I ever got to know creators because I started looking at who the writers were. And so if it wasn't for Chris Claremont, I probably wouldn't follow writers like I do now. That's why I follow writers like Gail Simone, Jeff Johns, Grant Morris, and things like that. Greg Rucka. I'll follow them outside of work they might do at DC to elsewhere. And try to pick up their stuff because I know that, that talent is what draws me. So it was nice to meet him for the first time. So I'm picking up right now because we went to his panel. I'm picking up New Exiles, which is fantastic. I love obviously because of the multiverse in DC, this is Marvel's Omniverse, and I'm following that one. I actually used to read the Exiles book. Winnick wrote it, and I really liked Winnick's run on Exiles when it was first through. And I got kind of away from the book just because, time, money and what have you. And that was the only reason, really, is financially and time-wise. I wasn't getting to it. I was stockpiling it. And I always liked the concept. And I'm really enjoying New Exiles so far. So we picked that up from the panel. I picked up Big Hero 6 from him. I'm going to check that out. I haven't read Big Hero 6 yet, though, so I can't comment. But New Exiles I'm really digging. So that's kind of a fun one for me. Baby Boomers from Chad Ciccone. I picked that up. He actually gave it to us when we read our Gypsy Cafe thing, and I will follow that now because I just...
It's a fun book.
Well, it is, like he said, it's a modern take on Spy versus Spy, so I had so much fun with that. David Wachter, I usually follow, his stuff. I enjoyed his Scar Tissue immensely. The Guns of Shadow Valley, he had his preview book of it. They're looking for a publisher for it, but I'll follow that because I'm a Western freak, so I'll be glad to follow Guns of Shadow Valley when that comes out, but... I honestly wish I had more time. And that's really the only thing that holds me back from anything else right now is it's really time. So otherwise, that's kind of what I'm reading. What about you? Are you reading? I went on and on and on, but I was trying to answer his question as much as I could. It's a good question.
Well, outside of the DC universe, let's see here. I am not reading anything outside of DC. That's all I read.
You want to tell them the real answer?
Okay, the truth is, of course. A lot of the stuff you're reading, I'm also reading, and a lot of titles from IDW, from Dynamite. I'm reading a lot of Dynamite stuff.
I'm reading Doctor Who from IDW.
Yeah. Let's see, what other, outside of DCU, The Boys is one I was like, I'm really digging it. Even as I'm trying to trim down my pull list just because of sheer time, The Boys is still on there, and I don't see myself dropping that anytime soon. The Buffy stuff, the
Dark Horse,
Dark Horse, and also the Angel stuff that's on IDW. Mm-hmm. Angel After the Fall is a really cool, story going on, and I'm enjoying that. I'm reading
Fallen Angel from IDW too. Yeah. I really like that.
Let's see here. What other? Of course, I am picking up that New Exiles as well. Just hearing him talk about it got the bug. And when we were at Mid-Ohio, I was able to find issues 1 and 2. I said, I'm just going to buy these here. That's all I'm going to buy, and that'll give me a good feel whether I want it. As soon as I finished reading issue 2, hopped on the computer, okay, let's start ordering. Next time I did my DCBS order, okay, what's the current number? DCBS, okay, let me order those, and then find all the back issues. So I now have all of the issues ordered on their way to me, so I'm now collecting New Exiles.
He got me so hooked in at the con, I was like a fish on a hook.
Yeah.
And I ended up grabbing 1 through 11 at the con.
I had a little bit more restraint, but of course it was only because at the one table where I found 1 and 2, I didn't find the other ones. Had there been more titles there, I would have picked them up. So, but I'm going to click to the... I had more restraint. I was going to give it a read through and see if I liked it.
Spent more on them?
You know what? Not really. I think I got a pretty good deal. I didn't pay cover price.
Neither did I.
So, okay.
Yeah, okay.
So as long as I'm under cover price, I'm happy.
Yeah, I am too. That's a good point. So we did pretty well.
Yeah. Woohoo!
Yeah. Go you. Anything else?
Outside of DC, there's like occasional independent stuff that I'll see, and I'm like, hey, let me give that a read through. A lot of times Image has limited series. Like they had the Beyond the Mask. They had that where the one hero is, drunken and all that stuff. And they've had a couple other just, limited series. Like War to the State was just a wonderful series of these... of a freaky quote-unquote family unit that's, training these kids to be assassins, and just, I was like, oh, this is actually kind of neat. I'm picking it up.
I'll pick up stuff from Top Shelf that's pretty contained. Alan Moore, when he does stuff, I'll grab anything Alan Moore does, just because he's Alan Moore. Yeah,
I tend to get more limited series if I see them than running ongoing stuff, just because... it's time thing, and I feel like I can have a limited series. I wait until I have all the pieces of the series, and then I read it. Or I'll pick up the first issue. If I like the first issue, then I'll pick up the rest of the stuff. It's kind of like that mindset I'll go with. But I don't know. It's... they're kind of my palate cleansers, if you will, a lot of times. So I do need to keep the outside the DC universe, outside just other titles, and just, enjoy those.
Do you find that keeping yourself up, because I get this question a lot from people, do you find that keeping yourself up with the show keeps you from buying things outside of DC?
Yes.
Just in the sense that you're buying a bunch of titles from DC now. Like, do you find that you're buying things from DC you would probably drop to try other things?
I don't know, because everything I'm reading I'm enjoying. So it's,
that's where I'm at too.
But I honestly, if I wasn't doing the show, I'd probably be getting more stuff because I would have more time to read. And I would have more time to read comics. So the show, to be honest, is probably helping me spend less money than more money because I'm caught in the bug. I'm enjoying comics. I'm enjoying what I'm reading. I don't know. I don't
think there's anything DC related that I would drop. I would be reading more outside of DC, but I wouldn't be reading stuff in place of things I'm currently reading. Yeah.
True.
Yeah, I just get that question asked lots. I figured, why don't we just bring that on the air, because it's a good question. But I think it's time. It's a time issue. It really is a time issue. So that's cool. He asked another question. What was our first exposure to DC? Well, yours... Well, no, it wasn't the show. I take that back. It wasn't the show with you. Your heavy exposure to DC was the show, but what was your first exposure to DC?
My first exposure to DC was back in college. It was my buddy Hoach. And that's, of course, a nickname for the guy. And he was a heavy DC reader. I was reading X-Men. I was reading Captain America at the time. I was heavy into Captain America. I was really digging the whole Cap thing. And he had me, it was like when right before the death of Superman, it was right around that time when DC was doing some stuff. It was right around the time with with Hal Jordan becoming Parallax. And I was borrowing stuff from him and reading it. And it wasn't until Death of Superman that I was like, you know what, I'm going to start buying this stuff. And I bought all those titles. And part of me was thinking I was buying it. I was going to buy it because maybe it'd be worth something someday. But the other thing was I was enjoying the story I was reading. And there was a lot of times I went, hey, who is this person? Who's this Guy Gardner? Who's this again? Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. And it was like trying to figure out who the people were. And then Green Lantern Mosaic came out. And I read that. I really loved Green Lantern Mosaic. I was like, hey, who's this Green Lantern? Okay, I've never heard of this guy. Who is he? Getting the basic history on who he is, and I was just really digging who he was and what he was about. Just the death and then the return of, the return of Superman, the introduction of Tim Drake Robin. was right around the beginning of my
But you
reading.
never actually read his solo series after that, right? Is that when did you drop?
Here's the interesting thing. I had all the prequel story, those Robin
1, 2, and 3?
2 and 3. I had all of those. And I had the first issue of Robin.
Okay.
I don't know. And I think the reason I dropped it was because of money. And I was looking at, I don't have enough money for comics, and I didn't want it to limit it just to one thing, because I really was liking Tim Drake. I'm like, man, this new Robin's kind of cool. And I'm looking at my finances going, you know what? I can't do this. So I dropped all comics, and it was a little painful for me.
You're a better man than me.
It's not about being better. It's just to be about. I was paying for college. I was paying for living expenses. I was paying for
really just one book.
Yeah. I also had to pay back the U.S. military, some money,
right.
And that was there's no deferment on this. No. You start making payments now, so I'm like, okay, I have to come up with $200 every month, or I'm in trouble.
Right?
Okay, comics are gone.
Right.
So yeah,
and I've had financial reasons where I've dropped down. I'll tell you what my solution would be. Anytime I've had to drop down, that was one of the few times I've gone to mail order subscriptions. As a kid, my mom bought me the Uncanny X-Men run, so I had that for a while, and Batman. So I had those 2 books going. And then I had, I remember there was a stretch there where I was only reading Starman. I could only afford one comic, so I was reading Starman. That's it. But I've never been without comics on some level. So then I went back and I was rereading some of my old comics. I had to sometimes, here's what I would do then. I would sell comics to buy comics. So I was using there's like runs that I had, wonderful runs that I had to sell to finance reading more. Because I'm like, I don't want to just read Starman. I love Starman, but I want to read more. So I would sell comics to get a few more issues here and a few more issues there. So then I'd buy like 2, 3, 4 of it, title, like the back issues from the comic shop. And I was trading to a comic shop for, you get nothing when you sell them to a comic shop. But I was literally doing that, but I was walking out with new reading material. So for me, it was worth it. It really was. I don't regret it by any stretch, because to me it was about, hey, I got to do some great reading during that time. So my comics that I had financed me for a while there, reading more than just one book. So it was an interesting journey at that point, but I've always kind of read comics. My first exploration into DC, as a kid, it was a bunch of things, and I couldn't tell you what was my first. I had like the giant oversized Batman Hulk Treasury edition. I had Superman, Muhammad Ali, those oversized Treasury editions. My mom was real cool about that, helped me with that stuff. I had those book and record sets, and they were actual comics that had a book and record set. I have it still. I have one that's a Batman Gorilla City and Batman and Sherlock Holmes. It was really cool. It was a giant,
oh, cool,
wonderful comic art was in there. So they were actual comic books you could read, but the record it was fully dramatized. It would play along with it, and believe me, that record has a ton of scratches on it, but it plays still.
Cool.
So yeah, I have that, and then I had a Superman one, and City Under Siege it was called, because it always said Superman City Under Siege. So I had that one, and I would play that book and record set all the time. So my mom was like real supportive with my hobby, and it was reading stuff. And then the library, I would go down to the library and read stuff. But I remember Brave and the Bold was a title I got when I was very young. Batman was a title I got when I was very young. Batman Family was running during that time, which was always great because it had more than one character. So you got to see, Batwoman and Batman and Robin and Batgirl, and I loved that stuff. So growing up, that was kind of a cool title. Justice League was a title I got. But none of these books, you got to keep in mind, none of these books I was getting steadily, monthly. It was you walked into a pharmacy or something like that, and my mom would let me get a couple comics. And I would literally go for, obviously, Batman was my first draw. But then Marvel Team Up was another book that I really enjoyed because it was Spider-Man and somebody, and I really liked Spider-Man from the cartoons. So it was always cool because you got Spider-Man and another hero. So it was really cool. I remember one of the first ones I remember that was Spider-Man and Iron Fist. And it was a 2-parter. And it was so hard to find the second part because I remember, I was looking for the second part and I couldn't find it, and I had to go to, a couple different pharmacies because there wasn't a comic shop, at that point. So it was really an interesting little quest. But then I found it, and I got to finish that story. And Iron Fist had lost the Iron Fist, and that was the cliffhanger. And you got to see what happened in the second issue. It was against an evil version of Iron Fist. And it was really a good story. So, I don't know, just stuff like that. I don't know, comics have always been 70s for me. It was, it was my thank goodness for my mom. My mom was just really supportive of the fact that I enjoyed these characters, and we'd go to a shop and I'd say, "Mom, can I get a comic?" And yeah, you'd go walk out with a book. And they were everywhere. They were in grocery stores, pharmacies. It's one of the things that I think it's one of the reasons why isn't there readership for comics? There are not enough places, and that I think hurts the comic shops too. Because I think if you got them on spinner racks in stores and things like that, you're going to get more people to come to the comic shop. I know that there's competition with other medium and things like that, but I do think if you had, I've got comic books on my shelf in my classroom. Kids are reading them. So I think if you put them in places, I think the price point is going to be an issue nowadays as well. But
yeah, I can't see like a parent, like back in the day with us. Oh, sure, just to appease little Johnny, shut him up and here, I'll buy you a quick comic. Now, hey, I'm gonna, I'll be Daddy, Father of the Year,
Daddy, whatnot.
But seriously, it's a lot of times it was just okay, mommy, okay, fine. There, be quiet now. Sit in the car, look at your little comic, but now if you ask a parent, hey, you got to drop like $4. I don't know if they'll do that.
When I grew up and I was a little whatnot, my daddy my daddy the sensei used to always give me things to shut me up. No, really, he told me that word for word.
Any surprise as to why Jim does not have children?
Papa whatnot, put a big red hat on you and a beard. La 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 la. Shut up, that kid.
It's whatnot Smurf.
All right, on that note, let's get to R.I.P.
To the Batmobile. Let's go. Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed. You're ready to move up.
Our next review is going to be of Batman 680. R.I.P. This is the second last issue of R.I.P. The writer is Grant Morrison, penciler Tony Daniel, inked by Sandu Floria, colored by Guy Major, lettered by Randy Gentile, edited by Mike Martz, assistant edited by Janelle Siegel, covers by Alex Ross and Tony Daniel. And can we talk about that Alex Ross cover?
Yeah.
Ooh.
They've all been stellar.
Oh yeah, that one. I mean, just seeing Batman and ready for the fight and everything. And I was ready for the fight in this issue. This is interesting.
This has been a great just build up to the fight. Every single issue has just chugga. And it's even this opening of this, the issue with this great villainous rant by Black Glove. It's just, everything is just setting up for this
Dr.
fight.
Hurt, not Black Glove, Dr. Hurt.
Right. You know what I mean.
This story has had more twists and turns that really started to connect me with what Batman is going through. I remember the first couple issues being very puzzled. I was enjoying the ride, but if you asked me what was going on, I couldn't really give you a very clear answer. As the story continued, though, this became an interesting study of who Batman is on the inside and what his quest to understand his foes set him up for. What does trying to understand your enemy, when does that go too far? When do you become them? This is one of the many themes explored here. And it's funny, as I talk through my notes here, I'm probably going to throw out a few ideas that I was having as I was reading this story. And then I came to a conclusion at the end as far as what I felt was going on here, but I had lots of way out there ideas that I was coming up with. And then when I finally saw the reveal, I'm like, oh, wow.
Okay, I'm going to admit right here that it took multiple read-throughs for me to even come up with a concrete, okay, oh wow! It's even after the first read through, when I had the ending, I knew what happened. There was a lot of times I had to reread it, especially a lot of the Joker stuff that we see later on. It's like, this is one of those. Okay, I gotta, I was really, when I was reading, I'm like, Sean and I have to talk about this in depth
and red and black. It's all red and black.
Yeah, I gotta see exactly.
Red and black go together,
right?
And he was doing that with the cards right from the get-go. He told us, and I thought that right from the first issue. I'm like, she set him up. I mean, everything she was saying to him, and even as the story went on, I'm like, well, maybe I'm wrong here. I don't know. I thought she was involved on some level right from the beginning. Our first episode, we talked about this because she really did her teasing that he might be the Black Glove and pointing it at him. She started sending him down this path. And it was interesting. So there's a question that remains for me, though, in this whole thing. Who is Dr. Hurt? And that's something I want to know more about him, because I feel there's a reveal there. You know, he was hinting that he was Thomas Wayne, but I don't see that being the case. But there's a story there, I think, to be told yet. This is really interesting. What is his relation to Bruce? What does it mean that the Joker seems to know his identity now? You know, because he does, from the way he's been revealing in this. Can we have Bruce Wayne as Batman after this, at least in the sense of how we are used to him? I don't know. You know, I think the reveal of who the Black Glove really is and who Dr. Hurt really is will have a ton to do with that. The game has been set for the richest to watch Batman versus the Joker. They are gambling over who will win, good or evil. Concepts of social deviance is something that Morrison has regularly explored. With Libasu, we see, or whatever, however you pronounce that name, we see a man who wears a mask to allow himself to be the man he truly wants to be, but can't be due to society restrictions, which is a darn good thing considering he dreams of doing all this to his family. You know, what a creep factor he is.
Yeah, and I just loved how they were, building their, showing all the players getting into position, everyone's getting in their seats, figuring out what's going to happen. It was like that calm before the storm. It was that build up to it. And when we saw, the hunchback dude, where he's really this normal looking person, but he puts on the mask, he puts on the costume, he distorts his physical self. But to allow him to bring his inside out. Right. I was like, I thought he was a hunchback. I figured he was some deformed type person. It never once dawned on me that this is something the guy does to himself as a disguise, as a way to unleash his inner demons. Or I was just like, oh, this is outstanding.
But he's making himself as deformed as he perceives himself on the inside.
Right.
Which is interesting. I want to shove that stuff right back in him, though. He's a creepy dude. It does bring about many of the questions of masks that people wear, though, because I do think we all wear masks. You know, when we are at work, at home, socially, in a large group, one-on-one, we all have behaviors that are driven by the situations we are in, and we wear different masks for that situation. Not necessarily to extremes. I think it's a very normal thing for people to do, in the sense that you behave in a certain way, you let your guard down more, you put your guard up more. There are things that we do. Definitely, hopefully not to the extremes presented here, though. This takes place prior to the current Nightwing arc, as he is still under their control and is about to be lobotomized. Does it bother you that we have verification that Dick gets free somehow? Is that something that even enters into your...
No, I'm more curious to see how and when it happens, as opposed to knowing what it happens. It's like we said with the death and return of Superman. We knew Superman was going to die. We knew he was going to return. Was I upset by it? No, it's part of the story. It was an enjoyable factor of it. So, for me... not even an issue. It's more of I want to see how it happens. I want to see if, Tim does the save. If Bruce is able to do save, does Nightwing save himself? It's I want to see the
And that
how.
wasn't revealed in Nightwing.
Right. I want to see the how,
right,
not the fact that it does happen.
And I think I would be more disappointed if in because I'm not disappointed at all, and I agree with you, because Nightwing's a stellar book, and I'm just enjoying it. And I'm glad that chronologically we know where this takes place in regards to R.I.P. I think for me, what's interesting about it is that Tomasi revealed where it takes place without giving away what happens. Because to me, it's far more interesting, how does he get out of this, than the fact that he does, because I don't think any of us were under the impression that he wasn't going to. The Joker and Libasu prepare the dance of death when we see Mr. J yawn. And I could tell that Libasu was going to have something. I thought he was toast. When you see the man yawning back there, the Joker, it means he's going to do something to entertain himself. And the art team does a great job of making the rainbow costume Batsuit look darn intimidating as he stands on the sign of Arkham Asylum. The Batman of Zur-En-Ar was only a short-term fix to get you out of trouble in the event of an attack on your mind. You can't run at this speed all night. An important concept, as this version runs pure Batman mode with no Bruce Wayne to balance him out, no downtime. So it's interesting to see the distinction here and how he couldn't run like that. And I do think this is becoming more and more a story of the importance of the Bruce Wayne persona to Batman. And to this whole thing, you can't have Batman without Bruce Wayne. The inner dialogue with Batmite about how the colors demonstrate confidence shows a similar thinking to Batman. It's all about how the villains would react to his getup, so that confidence would be an intimidation factor. And I do like that.
Yeah, and I like the reference to Robin and his costume. How Robin had those colors a long time, and it worked for him. And we even see that when the villains, when they first see the costume, they don't think it's the real Batman, so they take it lightly, and they get handed to them hard and fast because this is hardcore Batman. He may not look it, but you know what? The clothes don't make the man. It's the man underneath there that can stomp your head in. And I was like, I liked it. I don't want to see him always wear those colors,
no,
but it worked here, especially because they acknowledged how goofy the colors look.
You know, if the Joker kills everyone here because it's funny, Bruce's identity is safe.
Part of me was thinking maybe that's going to happen.
Well, it is. Wait, Sombrero's dead. Who knows what state Labassu's in?
Well,
because he's physically scarred up.
Yeah, well, he was sitting there talking about his face. So I think Joker just cut up his face for the fun of it.
But how much does Labassu know? Does he know?
I think they all knew everything.
Was Labassu in the cave at any point in time? Or was he in Arkham Asylum?
I thought he was in the cave.
I don't know. Yeah, I think he was part of that whole beat 'em up too. So yeah, you're right. So this is. It's interesting, and it's something would have to happen in the memory of the Joker there as well, because you don't want him running around with all that info. Somehow I think we are going to see some big changes, though, due to this. I mean, it's got to. I mean, I don't know how we can go back to status quo. Gordon and the police have to work their way through the traps in this house, so it's hard to imagine that won't Gordon, on some level, figure out? I mean, he hasn't gotten to the cave, but it looks like he's going to, because Talia and Damian help rescue him from some of those traps.
But it was more of the fact that the attack on Thomas Wayne is why he was at Wayne Manor. And then the villains are there,
right?
So it could be...
Depending on how far Talia takes him into the house.
Right, and I don't think Talia will.
If they take Gordon deep into the house, it's done.
Right, but I don't think Talia will. I think Talia is going to get him out of there.
She's very protective of Bruce. I can't see her, even in her nuttiest, she's been. Because she is there because she wants something with Bruce.
Yeah. And
her beloved.
Right.
And with her son.
Yeah, so and for me, that was a cool, because they kind of acknowledged that was the son of Batman, not the son of Bruce Wayne.
Are you current with... Yeah, I know. I like that,
so
too. That distinction was important to me as well.
And that would defend Gordon, saying, okay, Bruce came here to save the... Batman came here to save the Waynes, but her and his... appears to be his kid are here in his place. Okay, I can see that, and then they lead him out. Kind of thing. And we may even get an issue later where she says, don't worry about Wayne, we've already protected him.
The bat phone was cool.
Yeah.
The bat phone was cool.
The red
I love the
phone.
60s stuff.
Yeah.
I do. I love seeing that stuff. Well, the situation in the current Heart of Hush story, are you current with Heart of Hush?
Yes, I am.
This week?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I don't want to reveal that here because this is 680, but there was a big reveal in this issue of Heart of Hush. Does that play into this? Because I'm taking that Heart of Hush takes place prior to this, aren't you?
That's how I took it, and...
Does that play into this on some level? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's,
because that might open an opportunity, too, for how this might
work
out. So I don't know. I like the bits, I jumped ahead a little bit, but there's this bit where Reason won't fit through the door. Batmite tells him that. Batmite informs Bruce that if he goes it alone here. Does Bruce know what is coming? That this is all about how close he needs to get to understand the villains. That he set himself up to fall into their madness. Is that what this is? I don't know. Now is he clawing his way out? I had lots of thoughts I was going through here, and I saw that. I'm like, I love that the fifth dimension is imagination, explaining that we all have seen, everything that we've seen in the past is due to it being a part of this fifth dimension, so that all those things do fit in, the Silver Agey stuff that's a little wacky and out there. Those things can have happened in imagination, and I like that concept.
Now, of course, how cool is it, though, that Batmite is the voice of Reason?
I know.
This the little imp-looking dude, what would be the opposite of Reason is actually the Reason. I was like, I like that. That's cool.
But in order to get through this, he has to let go of Reason for the moment.
It's pure violence. It's pure rage, wrath, whatever you want to call it.
He's trying to rationalize something you can't.
Thing. Yeah, it's that primal nature of man. And one of the things that they said when this whole thing started, they were going to break down Batman to a level that he's never been done before, and then they'll bring him back, or will he be able to come back?
Well,
this is
they don't want to bring Batman back. They want to bring Bruce Wayne back broken to be like a servant. Remember, that was what they said. They didn't want to bring Batman
No,
back.
I'm not talking the bad guy saying. I'm talking, Morrison and all them said
okay.
this.
I misunderstand, yeah.
Yeah, Morrison said this. Now, the bad guys want to break it, and they want to have a broken Bruce Wayne as their manservant. But
You said they. I didn't know who you meant.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So you meant the creative team.
I meant the creative team.
Okay.
This is the, and so now we have the broken down Batman. Are we going to start seeing him claw out? Are we going to start seeing him fight? Before he now is the end of this issue, he's at rock bottom. Mm-hmm. Even when he created Batman of in this, and he's fighting off the bad guy. He was on the downslide. He hadn't hit the bottom yet. He's now at the bottom. End of this issue, he is at bottom, and. So we'll
see. I took some hope in this Batmite scene because it's like Batmite's saying at this point, you're going to have to abandon reason at a certain point during this, and this is where that begins. And that's that moment they're trying to make him understand them and break him down to that level to make him one of those things that he's tried to understand. Because I think that's the only way to understand this insanity is to be insane.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
it's a very goofy exploration.
Yeah, there's so many levels on this thing.
But I think that's the only way for him to understand is that you can't understand this lunacy.
Right. You just got to let go.
Yeah.
And you just got to do, and not think about it.
I do like that many present no longer believe this is Batman.
Yeah.
That there's a doubt that's there now, which is important, I think, to any possibility of Bruce Wayne coming out of this. So what is the ultimate ignoble betrayal that Bruce needs to survive? Is it Jezebel? Is that what you took it as? Or is there something more to be revealed?
I think it's Jezebel.
So do I. I mean, I guess that's what I took it by.
That was my take. That was my take on it.
Okay. I do think to a certain extent there is a betrayal of the mind, though, too. Because Bruce kind of set himself up for this unwittingly by, this incessant need to understand. He left himself open for Dr. Hurt.
Yeah, and his volunteering for those experiments and all that type of stuff, just to push his mind and body to a level that no one has gone before. Did he really need that? Would Batman have been fine without all of those super freaky stuff he did to himself? I don't know. Maybe.
He was so driven,
maybe not.
though. He was so driven, though, to be one step ahead of the criminals. That it's interesting. It's a really interesting study of how far is too far to drive yourself, and where do you go from here? And will he succeed in his goal? Is this where he succeeds in it? Yes or no? I don't know. Is this going to make Batman something more, or maybe make him let go of certain things? And I don't know. It's interesting. Joker meets with the Black Glove, and Robin is still free, or Joker meets with Dr. Hurt at this point. I guess the Black Glove is the reference, I guess, again, going back to what you were saying earlier.
Right.
Reference to the organization.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I geeked out at the, we talked about this, geeking out about the Bat Hotline. This is where the whole Gordon stuff happens. And on some level, the Joker is the reveal here. Because he found out who Dr. Hurt is, why he hates Bruce. Part of me was thinking, is Dr. Hurt Bruce? And then I'm like, well, it can't be because he's there.
He's in the same place, right.
But is Dr. Hurt somehow related to Bruce? I don't know. But there's something to Dr. Hurt. There's a twist there, and that's the part we don't know yet.
And I was wondering if, the illegitimate son of Thomas Wayne is one of the things I was thinking maybe.
Well, I mean, yeah, and there's been that in the past, so I don't know. Or is he related somehow to Jezebel? And that's the connection? I don't know.
What, Dr. Hurt?
Yeah.
I don't.
There's a connection. Why is Jezebel doing this? We don't know that yet.
Yeah. I don't think we know that one yet.
There's a nice intensity of all this, though, because this is a nice, creepy version of the Joker. Classic shoes, the purple pants and suspenders, but the blades and the self-split tongue add the formidable nature of this creep. I mean, he's really creepy. Ooh.
Dude, that had to be the what the heck is he doing moment for me.
Yeah.
He slits his own tongue, which of course gave him that forked tongue. And I'm like, is that premonition of Joker isn't being completely honest with everybody? Because I don't think he is.
Right.
He's making Hurt think, hey, I'm on your side, but he's not really. Because if you look at, when we talk about Sombrero, what he does to Hunchback Dude, and even like there's a scene later on when Hurt calls him his servant. Joker's got that look on his face like, excuse me? What did you just call me? Yeah, so there's more to this story than even we know yet with the Joker.
Let's talk about the yin and the yang right here. Batman is trying to bring order and understanding to the madness. The Joker is the chaos that is the exact opposite. And that's in the whole tete-a-tete with those two. That's what the Joker's saying. We're not going to team up here. This is why. And it really was, fantastic art, a great sequence, but the dialogue there was very, very important and very telling. Can you understand something so insane in just a few days of isolation? I love the comparison of hints and clues and structures to Wikipedia. Yeah. This isn't Wikipedia. You can't just look this up. It doesn't work that way. How do you apply logic to the illogical? It's Labasu. We see that he's carved up, and again, Sombrero's dead. None of the rich know his identity, so I'm starting to see more and more possibilities that maybe Bruce... And that's been my constant journey on this whole thing. How can Bruce survive? Because I don't want to lose Wayne Manor and Bruce Wayne out of this whole thing. It's important to me. The Joker knows who he is, though. Mom and Dad, the job. He's trying to take Batman into insanity. To understand, you have to snap. Is that what he's showing him? I don't know. The Joker seems to be pushing him further and further down the path.
It was weird. It kind of reminded me of, Professor Zoom trying to take the Flashes to the extreme, to become better Flashes. That one version of Zoom that was doing that. But I can't see Joker having noble intentions. So I'm like, what is Joker? Is Joker in... Then I was thinking, okay, this is just Joker having fun.
Well, he does find it funny that the joke's on Batman, because he knows...
everything.
Right, and he's
Batman
known it all along.
Nothing. And it's Joker from day one has known what was going to happen. And that's, with the cards, with the black and the red. He's known from the beginning, and he just sat back, laughed, and had fun with them.
Are we going to find out that the Joker always knew he was Bruce Wayne?
I think so. And
then he just found it funny not to tell anybody?
Yeah. Well, it's like when the Riddler figured out who Batman was. Why know the ultimate riddle?
Well, no.
If you don't share it with everybody.
But the Riddler doesn't remember it.
Well, now he doesn't, but remember when before he forgot the information, and Bruce is like, you're not going to tell anybody. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, you know the answer to the greatest riddle in the world, and you're not going to share it with people.
Right.
And then later he eventually forgot. Same thing with the Joker. He knew this great mystery, which was absolutely a funny thing for him. Now, if you think back to the death...
the Black and Red, if he knew who Black Glove was, that was at the beginning of all this. How would he know?
Now, if you think back to Death in the Family, when the Joker became the ambassador to Iran and was in the World Trade...
The two of them knew each other?
And he's walking down, he sees Bruce Wayne, he sees someone in a suit and just starts laughing. And Bruce's like, does he know who I am? I think right then and there...
Years of familiarity?
He knew that had to be Batman. He didn't know who it was at the time, but he knew that had to be Batman. So, and then Bruce Wayne's pictures everywhere saying, hey, that's the guy who I know as Batman. Wow, he's Bruce Wayne. Yeah.
I wonder if the lesson here for Bruce Wayne is to know that he needs Bruce Wayne. He needs to be Bruce Wayne. Batman is closer to the villains than he cares to admit. He needs that persona. And that's kind of the craziness of this whole thing. Jezebel calls him Bruce, but he corrects her that he's the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh. Red and Black Petals turns into a deadly neurotoxin. How does it feel to be a clown at midnight? There's only one joke, and it's on you. His whole quest to save her was for nothing. And that's the joke here, because Jezebel is the Black Glove. But I can't help but feel there is something more. How did she originally target him? How did that happen? Who is she really? And I think that part is something that we all need to understand at this point. Okay, we know she's the Black Glove. The reveal's there. The hints have been there all along, but why? We don't know that yet.
Right.
And that's the part that's got to be the big shock of this whole thing is who is she? Who is Dr. Hurt? Why Bruce? Why are they targeting him? This is definitely what is the point of all this? It's the joke. What was the point? They wanted to tear Batman down, but who are they and why target him? So that's what I think we want to see. What does Talia know about all this? Is she there to save him? Can she save him?
I would put that she's there to save him.
Yeah.
And she sees him as a necessity,
Right.
one for her son, one for her purposes, her plans, and the other just because I think she doesn't want the father of her child to be a broken man. He must be strong, he must be powerful, and...
To make Damien that way, correct?
Yeah, to make Damien that way. So I see her for now on the good guy side, just because
it fits her goals.
Right.
So it's interesting. I'm loving this.
Yeah, it's even now we have all these answers.
There's still a mystery.
We still have more mystery. We're like, what? And this is like, there's only one more part left.
Right.
So I'm like, how are they going to wrap it up? And
but they did. They revealed a lot in this.
Yeah,
and like every issue, there's been a lot of reveal, but it's a continuing mystery. And this is Batman. It's it is a detective story. There's a mystery here. What I like about this, and where the confusion works for me is I feel like I'm going on this journey with Bruce, and I'm eating that up because I feel like I know what he knows. And this is where this is working for me on so many levels, why this is just a fantastic Batman story, is I feel like I am riding this ride with Bruce. And that's where I think it's brilliant writing, because they've done something, it's the kid in me. That's what comics do. It brings out this like intense, like, wow, I'm hanging with Batman. And that's what I totally feel like in this story. And it's unfolding for him like it's unfolding for me, and yet I still feel like hanging with Batman's the safest place to be, because he's still got some card up his sleeve we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, he's not down yet.
No,
it's
Batman,
right? Like that final sequence, she's like, "Look at his eyes, he's got it now." And they're basically saying they've broken him. He is done for.
But moment with Batmite, there was something about that. I'm like, there's a card here. Batman knows something in his subconscious. The stuff we've seen with the Outsiders, the stuff we've seen in the other books, he knew he had to put himself in this place to accomplish something.
Yeah.
They haven't counted on something. There's something in Batman they haven't counted on it. I'm waiting to see what it is.
I kind of have an idea.
Okay.
I think the one thing they haven't counted on is the Bat family. The one thing they haven't counted on is Nightwing, is Robin, is Talia, is Damian, is Oracle, is the Outsiders. I think we're going to see...
I'm going to disagree with you to a certain extent on this one, because I do think, and I will be sorely disappointed this is about them saving him and him not saving himself. Because I think there's a point in this story that they are going to learn that they underestimated Batman. And they think they put all the cards in place and that they've got him completely where they want him. But I think there's a curveball that he's going to throw out there that they didn't expect. It's the man who plans for everything. Like, I think that there's something we haven't seen yet from him that I think is going to shock them. I would be disappointed if we don't see him step up. I don't know. It's for me, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not saying you're wrong. It may totally be that. It may be the Bat family comes in and saves the day, because certainly the players and the cards are there for that to happen. We haven't seen Robin, Alfred. There's a point where Alfred could be a part of that. Nightwing, certainly Oracle. You're right. We could pull in the whole team. Talia is certainly in place to assist on some level. But I think there comes a point where... This is Bruce. After everything he's been through, isn't there a point? I think you're right. He's going to be, and he might be taken down even further in the beginning of next issue to get to that point. But I think we're going to see a point where the strength of the man who's going to come his own way back up out of this. I don't know. So
yeah, it's one more issue of RAP, and you're just still like going.
My anticipation is to see Batman do something.
I don't know. And if in my head, I can just kind of picture a scene where they have him broken down, and they think they have, and you just see the look in his eyes. You see that Batman look, and he just starts fighting back. It's that blind fighting back, and I see that kind of happening. I also see a sequence where they have him broken down, and out of the shadows, Nightwing comes in, Robin comes in, Damian. These are different sequences I can see happening, but. If they don't happen, cool. It's one of those things where I don't know.
They say the wrong thing. They do the wrong thing that sparks Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen that yet. Where is the point where they're going to slip up and bring back Bruce? Where are they going to do something? There's something that's going to spark him, and maybe it'll be from inside him, some inner drive in him that will bring him back. That's what I'm looking to see here. So that's where I'm at. I mean, we're speculating, so I'm not saying that you're wrong or anything like that. That's where my hopes are on this. Where this goes is I want to see Bruce. I'm riding with Bruce right now.
You know what? It could be inspiration from Alfred, maybe.
Who knows? There's something we don't know yet. And a lot of what's going to happen next issue has to do with who Jezebel is, who Dr. Hurt is. Are we going to find all of that out? Something about that reveal is going to be really twisted. It's going to be something that's going to send into shockwave, but I also think it's going to backfire on them.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
It's one of those things where I'm glad I don't know, and I
am too. I'm not saying I want to know. I like speculating.
Yeah.
That's the fun right now. Is I like speculating. I like there's a mystery, and I throw me in a crazy curveball here. Wow.
Hey there, Sean and Jim. Don Sanderson from Orlando, Florida. Just listening to your podcast and heard the caller call in about action figures, and you guys touched on it a little bit. I've kind of gotten to the point where as many action figures as I have, I'm not as interested in collecting them anymore. And I want to go just a much more high-end look. And I wanted to kind of rave about the Alex Ross statues. They're $200 a piece, so it's going to really cut into my budget to get them. I wanted to see if you guys knew of any other one besides the Batman statue that Alex has released. To me, Alex Ross is, with all due respect to all the other creators and comic book artistry, Alex is by far, in my opinion, the finest comic book artist. I love his work. I've got it all over my office. And thus I am going to be adding those statues eventually and just present my comic book memorabilia stuff in a much more classy way, I think. But anyway, I wanted to see if you'd seen the Batman statue that's out now and what you thought of his statues and if you thought they were worth it. And as always, enjoying the show. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon.
First of all, I got to say ditto on the gorgeous nature of these statues.
Yeah.
Because I was literally looking at the statues. I went to the DC Comics website, and we saw a Batman statue called the Dark Crusader, a Batman Black and White statue, Kingdom Come Shazam, Kingdom Come Superman, Hawkman, and Red Robin statue, which is $89.99. That was one of those. Woo, that looked nice. A Martian Manhunter statue, and then a Superman Forever #1 statue, all designed by Alex Ross, and then they were sculpted by various sculptors. Some of them were sculpted by Alex Ross, like that Shazam one was actually sculpted by Ross. So that's interesting that some of them are sculpted by other sculptors.
Yeah,
I didn't know that he did any sculpting himself. That's very interesting.
I know. I saw that Superman Forever #1, and it's Superman and Clark Kent with him opening the costume, and so you just see the emblem.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a. I'm like, hey,
that Kingdom Come one looked Superman, Hawkman, and Red Robin. They're all three of them together on the statue base. That looks really cool. I haven't done. I got a Hawkman bust, and I mean that's probably the extent of it. Otherwise, I've got some of the oversized Hero Clicks. A few of the DC Direct action figures, but I haven't, and I've got a ton of Hero Clicks. I haven't gotten into the whole statue thing yet. The price point has been, but he's right, when you're looking for a little bit more upscale for a display purpose, I really wish with some of the things that I have for display that I had gone the statue route instead and gotten less, because some of the statues look fantastic. But I don't like the stuff that I've got. I don't want to get rid of either. So it's kind of an interesting little.
Yeah, it's a toughie. It's a tough call
because those look really good.
And it's I don't have any statues yet, and I do of course put a yet in there because I know there's going to be the thing where I'm like, I gotta get this.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be that statue that Superman Forever one really had me going. Ooh, that would be a cool one.
I gotta say and it's funny when he was talking about that's his favorite artist. I think art is so subjective that I think everybody can have their own favorite artist for a variety of reasons. He's certainly a very popular and for very good reason. I agree with him, and his kudos to Alex Ross. When I go to cons, when I go to the DC booth, one of the areas I do look first, I've got to admit, is the statues.
Yeah.
Because they look spectacular on display inside, because DC Direct always has that amazing display of them. They have that Linda Carter Wonder Woman statue, too, which looks really breathtaking. It's based on her likeness. I don't know, statue thing, I agree with him in the sense if you're looking for an upscale display.
For me, it's a matter of where would I put it, where would I display it.
If I could get my wife to let me put them downstairs in the China cabinet or the curio cabinet or that type of thing where they'd be on display for everybody, I would really start going that route. Because then
if you could, there's no way I know that would happen. But
I collected and I filled up the cabinet's filled with them. I'm a big Disney fan too.
Yeah.
Classic Disney animation. I joined their Collector Society, which is like their upscale statue line. And I've got one of Walt sitting on a director's chair with Mickey, and I've got a whole. I got their yearly piece, which was always like $50 to join, but then they had like this cool yearly piece that they would send you. But then there was a few of them where I got their like enhanced piece, like the big, specialty one to put in there. I got nowhere else to put any of them though. So if I was going to go that route, it would have to be like upscale statues that I could put in something like that. To have them on display for people, like as conversation pieces or anything. I wouldn't want them sitting up here.
Right, as much as we would enjoy looking at them when we're recorded, it would be kind of wasted.
Yeah, although I say that, and I bought like the Shakespeare bust from Batman, and that was a pretty penny to have that sitting up here. So I take that back.
Well, you needed an Spectre. Hold on,
and the Spectre, was.
Yeah, that Spectre. Ran
set you back a little bit, but I take that back. Maybe not. They're gorgeous, though. The statues are gorgeous. And I do go to DCComics.com and do a search when you get to the site for Alex Ross statue, and you can actually see, or just do a statue search. You can look at all the statues they have. But if you're looking specifically for the Alex Ross ones, all the ones we just mentioned are on DCComics.com. And you can click right on there, and then you can click on the pictures, and it gives you a nice full-size picture. The Martian Manhunter one looked really cool, too.
Yeah, that did look neat.
Yeah, especially with John, with how he's been in there. But thanks for, as one of the nice things about the action figure discussion in this one, it's been something that you and I haven't had time to have a lot of talk on because we don't have a ton of them, so it's kind of hard to have a discussion. It's great to have somebody who just say, hey, I bought an Alex Ross Batman statue. I love this thing, and that's where these voicemails come in real handy.
Here's something weird I've been thinking about doing, and I haven't done it yet, but part of me is so tempted to get the old Mego toys, find those, and then find the modern counterpart and display them together.
Like a DC Direct,
and
a Mego.
Like get the old school Mego ones, and then get the current version, and that's how I would display them.
Oh, that would be nice, actually. That'd be kind of cool.
But the only thing is, with a lot of those Mego ones, they're still in the box. I'd have to open the box. So
well, no, you could leave the Mego one in the box.
Yeah.
And you could leave the new one in the box.
See, I hate leaving toys in the box because
then what's the debate? You made it sound like it was hard for you to open the box.
But it is. I hate leaving them in the box. But then when it comes actually, okay, do you recall Chicago a couple years ago?
Yes.
We got the Batman, the one Batman Begins action figure.
Sure.
Okay, that's still in the box.
But you said you don't like leaving them in the box.
Exactly. But I still, every time I go to open it, I can't pull it open. Because I'm like, it's stupid it's in the box.
Now,
it shouldn't be in the box.
Is it that you really physically can't pull it open, or is it that you have issues?
I have issues with opening it up. I physically am strong enough and able to open that box.
I'm just checking.
I can do that. But it's just, I have issues with opening a box. I'm like,
what is the issue? You said you don't like leaving them in the box. Just open them up, then free them.
Free
them, dude. You're doing them a courtesy.
It's my neuroses,
You're doing them a courtesy.
It's my neuroses.
But then why is it still in the... I don't understand. See, technically, then you really do like leaving it in the box because it's still there.
But I don't want to leave it in the box.
You know how long ago that was?
But I don't want to leave it in the box. That wasn't this past
Chicago trip. That was the one before.
No, actually, I think it was the one before that. It was the very first Chicago.
A couple years.
It was the very first Chicago one we went to. It was Batman Begins.
Dude, then you're contradicting yourself.
Here's the thing. I don't want to leave it in the box, but I do.
Then take it out. You know what you're going to do? Here, wait. I'm going to give you moral support right now. We're going to finish recording tonight. We're going to stop. We're going to say our goodbyes, okay? Friendly handshake, all that stuff. Maybe a knuckle punch, all that type of thing, okay? Good recording, all that stuff, okay? You're going to go home. You get in your car. Turn on the key, okay? Yeah. The whole way home, you're going to say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to free this toy. I can do this. I'm going to free this toy. This is it, man. I'm giving you moral support right now. You're going to keep saying it in your head. I am going to go home and free this toy. And you're going to do it. You're going to open the thing up, you're going to free the toy, and then you're going to take a deep breath. Okay? A deep breath. Maybe a watish. And you'll be happier.
Yeah, I want to. I really do.
Okay.
But it's just something stopping me. Something's stopping me. I don't know what.
Then what it is maybe it's the side of you that's saying, you know what? Maybe deep down I really want to leave it in the box.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
All right, see, I can't help you with this.
It's like I'm like an addict.
I can't help you with this.
Yeah, I can't break open it,
I can help you with A or B. It's like, if you want to leave it in the box, I gave you a solution. Keep them both in the box. There's your display. If you want to take them out of the box, just take them both out of the box and display them. I don't know what else I can tell you. It's simple. Or you could leave one in the box and one out of the box, and then you've got both of your neuroses settled.
See, now I'm thinking, hey, I buy 2.
That's right. You can have one in the box, one out of the box, and then you don't feel so bad. But then are you going to say that the one out of the box is lonely?
No, I'll have to buy 2 of each. So 2 of the Migos and 2 of the new, and then the boxed ones will be stored together.
Right.
Then the unboxed ones will be displayed on the shelf together.
Yeah.
That's actually not a bad idea.
That isn't a bad idea. There you go. Your problem's completely solved.
There we go. Wow, that was easy. Okay, cool.
Wait, you know what the sad part is? There's people like sitting here right now going, you know what? That's exactly what I do. I used to do that. I used to buy 2 of everything. And I'm not mocking anybody that does. The reason why, it just became an issue of I'm getting so much stuff that I can't do that anymore. But I used to do that, specifically like comics. I used to buy 2 of certain comics to bag and board one untouched, and then one to be my reading copy.
Yeah.
And I can't, I just can't do that. So, it's...
And I gotta say, I just hated when they did those specials where they're all bagged in the special bag, like the Death of Superman and the Wedding of Superman. I still have those bags untouched, by the way.
How did you read it?
I bought a second copy of each of them.
But see, I used to do that too. So that's why I'm not mocking anybody that still does that or anything like that. I totally get why you would do that and why that's important to you. It's really more of a financial thing for me. We were talking about finances before. I just had to get past that and say I can't do it anymore. But some people, they're not buying as many titles as I am, or not doing as many of any, so you can be more focused. When we started doing the show the way that we did and picking the pull list that we did, I can't buy 2 of everything. So it's funny. It's an interesting. I think that's always an interesting debate because I think everyone's got their own kind of idea on what they want for their collection. Free the toy, Jim. Free the toy. You can do it.
I'll try.
We'll want an update next week.
Okay.
Holy coal in a donut!
Hey everybody, I want to thank you all for your patience this week on this episode. I had the stomach flu on Thursday and Friday. It actually started on Wednesday, and it threw everything off for Jim and myself because we didn't have any content recorded yet. We were supposed to record on Thursday, and I was going to put it out on Thursday, but that just didn't come about. We ended up recording on Sunday, and we recorded a mammoth recording, which it was really a lot more than I normally would like to put out an episode. It was well over 5.5 hours worth of content. So it dawned on me, and I talked to Jim about this, and I posted in the forum to get some thoughts about it, that really it actually had enough content in there for 2 episodes. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to try to do this a little bit more often now. Jim and I have been wanting to do this for some time and just been looking for the opportunity. And the nice part is it's Monday right now. Jim and I are recording tomorrow. We're going to be recording with Jamal Eigel for Supergirl for another segment for the show. We're also going to be recording with Mark Tyler Nobleman on Wednesday to be talking about Boys of Steel, his picture book that talks about the life of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, talking about the creation of Superman and how that all came about with Superman at 70 and all that. It's a great time to talk about this wonderful book and his experiences there. So we got some great Superman-related segments coming up. We already recorded a segment on Terror Titans, which is going to be coming up. We've got a segment on Trinity that we just recorded that's going to be coming up, where we're continuing our exploration of that wonderful series. We have some more listener voicemails that we recorded already with our commentary on. So we've got a lot of content that we are recording and that we're going to be getting to. We're coming back on Saturday. We're coming back in 5 days with another episode about the same length as this one. And I'm going to be trying to do a little bit more of this. We're going to do like 5 to 6 days between releases and trying to get you some more current content more frequently, more in this type of format like for this episode. So this is kind of a direction that we're heading in. We've been wanting to do this for some time to get back a little bit more frequent, give Jim and myself an opportunity to get ourselves a little bit ahead with recording so that we don't run into a problem like we ran into this week where, I was sick and I could have easily emailed Jim some files and said, hey dude, can you edit this together so the episode gets out on time? And now we're in that place. So it's really, really great. I'm glad that all came out, but I want to thank all of you for your patience from all of this. Definitely check out some of the podcasts that are going to be in the show notes that are some friends that we met at the Mid-Ohio Con, and I definitely put all their podcasts in there, so you can definitely check out theirs as well. And we've got a different ad for the closing. This one, Jim noticed some things from the Hero Initiative, and we love supporting the Hero Initiative, so we figured for our closing ad from DCBService.com, Jim would share with you real quickly some things that he found from the Hero Initiative that are once again available from DCBService.com. So definitely check those out.
And we also want to talk about another comic as well for the Hero Initiative. Now, it's under Other Comics, the T, because it's the Hero Initiative, and they're offering 2 really cool things. They're both both Marvel stuff, but to be honest, I picked it up anyways because it is Hero Initiative. It's a variant cover for Marvel Apes #1. It's actually done by Mike Wierengo.
Mike Waringo.
Thank you. I wasn't about to butcher his name because...
And he had a very long run on The Flash.
Right.
So for people who are DC fans who maybe don't know him from his Marvel work, you'll probably most well known for his work on The Flash.
And this cover was penciled before his passing in 2007, so it's kind of a nice, homage to him as well for them to release it. Plus, a really cool thing that Marvel's doing. This is here comes Dare Gorilla, the ape without fear. So I read that, I was like, okay, that sounds kind of funny. I got to pick it up. Plus, a Hero Initiative Plus, a nice little variant. The other is a special Hulk 100 project. And once again, they followed up on the same success that the Ultimate Spider-Man 100 project have. The Hero Initiative gets Mean and Green. All of Hulk 100 original covers from Hulk #1, the Red Rampage himself, Red Hulk, all of that are collected within this. Marvel Apes #1, regular price, $10, yours for only $7. And the Hulk 100 project, regularly $10, yours for only $5.50. So, great way for you to support Hero Initiative. Once again, it's under T in other comics for the Hero Initiative.
And you get a unique collectible.
Yeah, these are two very neat collectibles. So, especially if you're a Hulk fan, if you're a Daredevil fan, these are some great stuff to get your hands on.
Cool. And we will see you on Saturday.
Bye.